It's a thing. They get mad if I don't do both claps. They get very angry. So I had to do that. Brother, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Love you, man.
Thank you for inviting me to come on.
Yeah, man. It's been too
Coach
long.
Colin, baby.
This, for those of you that don't know, this is Oliver. And Oliver was the one who prompted me to change my YouTube channel name to I Am Coach Colin. He is the one. Yeah. Because we were in the coaching group and we were talking about making declarations and being what you are and putting that out into the world. And at the time I was coaching. So I was like, I got to make this change. I got to like stand firm in what I'm doing. So that's why it's I Am Coach Colin. Exactly.
Wow. Honestly, I don't think I remember that at all.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it sounds like something I might advise.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not like you were like change the name, but you were like, you're a coach. Like you stand in that, like be in that. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. And then I changed
there's a power in declaring I am.
Yeah.
As opposed to you're waiting for permission or
exactly
shying away from the thing that we're stepping into next.
Exactly.
It was like this, to change, especially to change your channel and and like who you are known as. I mean, like first name, last name, Coach Colin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, man. And he is also the person to blame when people comment that they know that I am a part of the Illuminati and that Coach Colin actually stands for 33 because C and C are the third letter. So it's I am 33. And a lot of people have accused me of that. So he's also to blame for that. He's the one. He's my handler. Every celebrity has a handler. It's Oliver. He's the one.
There's the strings behind, man.
Yeah.
Well, 33 has other significances beyond that.
Exactly. It's a very powerful number anyway, but yeah, I've gotten that quite a bit.
Well, it's good to be here, man.
Yeah. It's great to be here, but we were just talking about something. We were talking about somebody messaging you or commenting on an old video saying, what happened to this guy? Right?
Yeah, I have like a nearly non-existent YouTube channel. There's so many things that we could do as business owners, as entrepreneurs, and it was just one of those things that has been I haven't been fully committed to it. But very, very earlier on, I recorded some videos, and someone commented on one that's like maybe 9 years ago, over 10 years ago, let's say, and they're like, "This was really good. What happened to this guy? This guy should have been, posting every day." Like, I can't remember the exact comment about it, but I was just like, "Yeah, you're right, man."
How much does that hurt when you see that,
dude? I reflect on this and I tell my clients this as well, of just like, man, you're literally only gonna regret how much you didn't produce and publish.
Yeah.
Like you'll only look back. You could publish something every single day and still look back and be like, yeah, I regret that I didn't release more. Especially when you have something creative to express, if you have a message that you want to share, if there's something that can provide healing and growth for people. I mean, yeah, like, and you could only get better, as you work through it, you refine your voice and your style, and all those things are your reps, so yeah, I regret it, man.
Yeah, I've had the exact same thing. That's why when you said it, I was like, oh, we should talk about this, because I've had that same thing. And it was also when we were doing our coaching together, when you were helping me through very dark time in my life, the Uber Eats driver version of me. And I saw a comment that said just that. It was a comment, and they're like, for what it's worth, I think you'd be a great coach. And I wasn't even talking about coaching or anything at the time. And they just wrote that. And I was like, and it was like from 4 years ago, like at the time. And I'm like, oh man, I'm like, why didn't I just keep going? And then, the video had like 1,300 views, and every video before that had like, 6 views. And I was like, oh, I missed the boat. I missed it.
You're behind, man.
Yeah, you're always
Oh
behind.
God.
Oh man, you're so old. You're so old. Oh
Well, you know
man.
what? It's like we have I think that we have this way of self-editing ourselves.
Yeah.
We can be in our head. If you're creative, if you're expressive, if you have something that you want to say, there's going to be a part of you that's constantly trying to refine it and tweak it, like even in real time as you're speaking or recording a
Mhm.
video, let's say. And so that can serve to just squash the actual value that we bring to the table because we
Mhm.
just think it could be so much better. And it's good to have a high standard for ourselves because we're trying to, reach for new heights. And it takes other people to recognize, like, hey, Coach Colin, like, you'd be a great coach.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, Oliver, that's what a great video. Like, why haven't you made more videos? And it takes other people kind of like seeing us from our light, from our gift to just remember, like, wow, I am so stuck in my own head most of the
Yeah.
time that I might forget and not recognize the fact that I have something of value to share. I mean,
Yeah.
we do that for other people. Like I know you and I can look at others as, as coaches, as people who are excited about people's potential and just instantly like this, like, wow, you got some magic. Like you are a special person in this way, in that way. And they'll be like, who, me? Like what? But we're the exact same way. We're kind of surprised sometimes when someone recognizes it, and it's so easy to lose touch with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that all the time. I see that all the time with people. And a big revealer, even for myself, was you know, Rogan. Rogan always teaches, you don't read the comments, but the comments kind of pushed me. And there's a lot of negative, but there's a bunch of positive. And it was just like little things where I always felt like I had to rush through videos. And I always felt like, they have to be really short. And then at one point I just ended up, because I was doing a lot of research, I made a longer video and I'm like, I'm sorry guys, this one's like 50 minutes. And there's so many people that were like, they're like, go longer. They're like, you can go longer. Like, what do you mean? Like, keep going. Like, make a 2-hour video. Like, what are you talking about? So it's like you get really caught up in what you think other people want from you and what other people want to hear from you. And a lot of the times when you're doing that editing thing you're talking about, you're thinking in yourself that they don't want to hear that silly part of myself. That part that I'll push that aside and I'll just say XYZ. They don't want to hear that real part of me. They don't want to hear that actual thing I have to say. And it's just not true, man.
A friend of mine, he has this saying. He's just like, fear is the assassin of dreams.
Yeah, right.
And it makes so much sense to me of just like, we have this fear of what people are going to say and what they are going to think. And doesn't it just like, wow, just an arrow straight to the heart of the dream,
Yeah.
just stops us dead in our tracks.
Yeah.
And like, who are we to know what people are going to think?
Hmm.
Like, who do we think we are?
Exactly.
We know exactly how they're going to judge this thing. No idea. Like literally have no idea.
Yeah.
Like who
Exactly.
knew? I mean, the thing that I really love and admire about you is that I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like you had like 300 or 400 YouTube videos before things really started to pick up.
Well, yeah, I was doing it a lot. And for anybody listening, like we were doing Oliver, and listen, you'll be able to correct as we go on. But at the time, Oliver was a coach and he was coaching me. We were in this program and I was doing Uber Eats and I just wanted a change in my life. And I had so many conversations with them and they always uplifted me. They always kind of revealed something in myself. And I finally, took a plunge and decided to actually do this whole coaching thing, this program that he had. I didn't know what it was. And during that time, I was just doing Uber Eats and I was just making these videos. It started like maybe 2/3 through the program because I was like, oh, I'm gonna make these coaching videos, and I was dressing up in suits and I had a vest on and a tie and then eventually like episode 3, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I like to wear hoodies, I like to wear bright hats, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I just decided, because we had done so much work together, that I was like, I'm just gonna take a year and just see what happens. Like, let's just do this for a year. It's like, why not? Like, what else do I have going on? And that's when I was doing 3 videos a day, every day. So it was like 90 videos a month. And then October, November, December, January. Yeah. Yeah. 400 videos, just about. And then things started taking off. Yeah.
Dang. Oh
Yeah.
my God. That's all it takes? That's it? 400 videos? Dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man.
Funny. If you're willing to, right? Like,
Well, no, I was actually more referring to before that phase. I feel like you already had a bunch of videos.
Before that,
You
yeah,
know,
I
over
had I had an interview series. You were a part of that interview series.
Yeah.
I had a vlog that I was doing, um, where I got my first subscriber, and I made a video just about him and how happy I was. It's basically just talking to him. Jaden, never forget Jaden, first subscriber. He's great. Australia guy. And
Early believer.
yeah, the first. The first is the most
First,
important.
actually first.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I had a bunch of videos at that point. At that point, maybe I had done like 200 interviews. I had maybe, I think maybe 60 of them up. And then I had the whole thing with my hard drive crashing, and I lost a bunch of these interviews that I did, and it was sad, but it happens. Can't hold on to things for too long. Can't hold on to ideas and things for too long. You got to put them out into the world, or else.
I have a bunch like that, man. Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, what I think is really inspiring for me is the fact that for years you were filming and recording and publishing, and you were going, and you just kept going, and you iterated and iterated and iterated. And it's, how many of us are willing to just hit publish, hit send,
Yeah.
enough, and maybe there's no response, maybe there's a little whimper of a response, maybe not, but you kept going, and you kept testing and tweaking and finding what actually works, all the way to the point where, what I would say is, I mean, praise God for Uber Eats, because I feel like if you weren't on the road for hours a day,
Yeah.
with JRE in the headphones, or on on the car speakers, where you can just consume and have ideas and percolating and have opinions and have things to say about these. I mean that's effortless. That's easy for you. You are not doing anything that was like hard work in terms of the consumption of that content. And then when you hit record, and you're just like, I'm a coach, I'm a comedian, I'm a creative, I love JRE, I love all these crazy things that are happening in the world, and I can go into these different wild rabbit holes, and I can just talk about anything. So let's just do the things that are easy and obvious and fun, and I can do it for hours anyways. I can do 3 episodes a day, without like really working, in a sense. And I feel like that it's got to be that combination, I think, that must have clicked. It's the fact that there was something that was obvious and playful for you, and you found a way to harmonize it, and then make it something that is relevant and entertaining and fun for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was part of the thing that you taught me, was to, and a lot of what we were doing, you correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of what you're doing when you're in these sessions with people, you're flushing things out that, maybe or maybe we're just uncovering things. And that was one of the things that got uncovered, is, doing something that's going to be easy, something that you would do anyway, right? You would be doing this anyway. And it's something, it's all that Venn diagram. It's like the thing that you're doing anyway, the possibility of making money, that and all the circles just had to meet, and they did for this one thing. And, there's exercises we did where people would comment about what they saw in me, and a lot of it had to do. I remember asking people. It was from this book, and it was asking people where I am my best self. And I remember you were even one of the people I asked, and like right away you're like, oh, in front of camera. Like, yeah, for sure, it's in front of camera. Like that conversation. He's like, when you're learning, he's like, when you're in front of the camera, when you're talking in conversation with people, he's like, that's the thing for sure. And I was like, and then a bunch of people said that, so I was like, let me just, things just click. It's weird how, if you're willing to listen to the nudges that God and your higher self, or whatever you want to call it, is giving you, you can kind of figure out what you're supposed to do. I always say in the show, everybody knows the thing that they want to do. Everybody knows.
Dude.
There's not one person that doesn't know. If this money was no issue, like Alan Watts said, the thing you would do, you know what it is. You know what you would go and do. It's just that you feel like it's not going to provide. And the thing that I always had in my head is that my passion will provide. It was a thing that I always had. I was like, my passion will provide. Like, you look around in the world and you see people's passions providing for them. So it's like, why would you be any different? Why would I be any different?
Yeah, this is amazing how like the divine timing of this week, because this has been the theme of the week in terms of all of the sessions that I've had.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. I was just like, wow, we're talking about this. This is like, wow. The synchronicity is amazing. There's this one client who started working with me many years ago. And when she started, engineer, telecom, 9-to-5 job, buying a bunch of real estate, chasing financial freedom, started working with me thinking, Oliver's going to help me create a plan, a strategy to escape my 9-to-5 and become a full-time entrepreneur, live the dream, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have their first session with me, and it's a full day. So we spend a full day together in person, and we have all these posters up on the wall. And, this work is about first untangling the mess and just putting it out onto all these posters. And never thought anything of some of the content of that. It was just the first stage. Eventually, she got to the point where, she was so sick of the job, but like nothing was giving, like nothing was happening, until they showed up for a session and was like, I'm going to be forced to take a leave of absence because of my doctor just the other day. And I said, oh, really? What happened? It's like, oh, the doctor said, based on my hormones, I'm extremely burnt out.
Wow.
Like my adrenaline, my stress hormones, I have to listen to her. And I said, interesting. Like, if I asked you, last week, how much pain were you in from 1 to 10? They said, probably a 6. And I said, based on the actual report that your doctor gave you, how much pain were you really in? And they said, 12.
Yeah, like it's just like,
yeah, like we learn how to tolerate like this pain and suffering that we are in, and we normalize it to a 6 out of 10. But when we take a step back and we have some outside perspective, like maybe like in the groups that you've been a part of, it's like, wow, no, I'm in a 12 out of 10 pain. And so that made the leap happen. So leave the job behind, step into real estate very quickly, miserable, like just not a fit to be in real estate. 6 months after that, this is now 16 months after we first met, and they're on the session in tears. I think there's a higher calling for me. I think there's a higher purpose. I feel like I need to save people's lives. I want to be someone's hero. I want to become a doctor. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Where did this come from? So moved. Like, they were so moved by this moment. And I was so shocked by it. But then when I looked back at those posters from the first session ever, there's a question. Guaranteed I couldn't fail. The work I would do is ... The first line that they wrote, become a doctor. Before we did any work, before we made any changes, they already knew, become a doctor. And dude,
Ah,
3 weeks ago, I got a photo of that Doctor of Medicine degree from
no
Progressive.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And
Wow.
dude, and so it's a testament to what you're saying. So many of us already know.
Yeah.
We just need space to remember. We just need space to reconnect with it, to get a lot of that stuff out of the way, you
Yeah.
know?
And to believe in yourself. Because that's a big part, right? You know, like believing that it can actually happen for you. It's so hard. And I feel like we've talked about this before, but it's so hard for just people in regular life. We're all bearing through pain. Like that's a normal thing that you're talking about. Someone bearing through pain and just kind of dealing with it. Cause it's like, what are you going to do? Like what most of the people watching, us, like, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to stop. I'm dead sick. I'm still working through this. Like, like not right now, but like I've had times where I'm like very sick and it's like, well, there's no time. Like, what am I going to do? Not do this? I have to do this. Like, my wife's in labor. I'm making thumbnails in the corner. Like it doesn't stop. You don't get to just say, I'm not, I'm not doing the thing. You have to do the thing. So there's so many people who are just bearing through it. And they're like, well, if I miss work this week, then I'm in a completely terrible situation. And if that happens again, well, then I could end up homeless. Like so many people are bearing through that type of thing. So it's like, yeah, when you talk about the thing that you want to do, they go, yeah, okay. Like I don't even want to think about that thing because it's just going to make me sad because I know I just have to do this thing to get through life, It's hard. And sometimes the greatest gift is having what that person had and having, being in a position where the doctor can tell you you have to stop and you can actually stop. And sometimes that's the best thing because it resets you. Not everybody gets that. Some people just have this slow drip of, wearing away, life just wearing them away. I was like that for years, for like 20 years. My life was like that every day, every single day. But what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to go on welfare. You're going to like, whoa, welfare is going to pay everything. And like, what are you going to do? You have kids. What are you going to do? It's so hard, man. The way life is set up is so hard,
Especially right now.
Yeah.
I totally get it. I mean, almost every conversation that I have with whether they have a regular job or they're self-employed or they're business owners, everyone has taken a hit.
Yeah.
All the money printing that has diluted the value of our currency, the way the years of the pandemic and shutting things down and bringing everything remotely. I mean, it truly affected people's decision-making process in such a big way. And we have no idea how interrupting life to that extent is going to play out in the long run. I mean, in the short run, just like now, we can see like there's a lot of, it's tight. There's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of chaos. And yeah, of course, man, in some sense, it is a luxury to what you were saying, my passion will provide. It is a luxury.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, I feel like there are certain types of people where the pain of not doing what God's purpose is for you and what God's gifts are that he's carved into us. It's so painful to not do those things that we need to take risks and take leaps and maybe even like learn how to tolerate certain levels of discomfort. Like, dude, think about how much discomfort you've had to endure and how many people out there, like to no fault of their own and not to make them wrong, they might not last a day in that discomfort.
Yeah, the uncertainty. That's what it really is. It's the uncertainty because that's what comes along with like following any passion is the uncertainty. And it's a sad thing. This is also something I learned with you. Like I used to take on like 10 things at a time. And, you revealed to me, you're like, sometimes when we do that, it's so that when we fail at one thing, you have the excuse of like, well, I'm trying to juggle 10 things here. you know? And if you just give into one thing, it becomes very big. And it's like, well, if I fail at this one thing and that's the thing I want, well, that's going to be heartbreaking. So sometimes it's like, I'd rather just be strong and just do the things I've been doing just to get through life than to actually have to confront that thing I really want and then fail at it. Like that's a hard thing to have to wrestle with. And it's like, you know, I could still fail. I'm still, you know, especially like in this thing, it's like it's performing. You have to perform. You have to perform every day. And you have to learn more and more and you have to figure it out. And yeah, it's
The
like,
show must
you
go
know,
on.
yeah. It's not solidified because I have 200,000 subscribers. There's guys out there with 100 million subscribers. They're working hard. Like it doesn't stop. So it's hard. Even, you know, you're a person that you're talking about. They became a doctor. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop at
No,
the certificate. Now it's like, what happens when someone dies on that person's watch? It's going to be rough, you know? So even following your passion is rough,
it's,
right?
man, I can't tell you. It is countless how many times I could have given up. I should have given up. It's not like it is not easy. It doesn't matter what path you take. There's going to be pain. There's going to be struggle. There's going to be a certain level of struggle. I mean, if you are at a stable job, there's a lot of things that you let go of. You know, there's a level of control and freedom, and you know, there's less time and energy for some of your creative pursuits, your spiritual
Yeah.
pursuits. You know,
Yeah.
like there's some things that you just you can't dedicate the same bandwidth, and so you got to ask yourself, like, what's the fair trade-off? Is the need for stability higher for myself and my family? Then yes, okay, that's an individual choice to make, but we have to accept the speed of our purpose and our passion is not going to be at the level of someone who is only living those things, who's
Yeah.
only doing those things, you know, and then we're on the sidelines in our purpose and our passion, let's say, being self-employed entrepreneurs, creatives, and we look at other people and it's like, wow, it would be great to just have to know exactly what I was going to get 2 times a month, you know, every 2 weeks. That like
Yeah.
that would be so good. But then we forget like how much they are forfeiting by, you know, by making that choice. So it's I mean, we all got to choose. It's that saying, like, you got to choose your heart. It's gonna every
Yeah.
day you got to use your gift to do good in the world. You got to exchange value. You got to solve problems. Um, and will it be building someone else's business in a job that someone else owns? That's okay. Like that's completely. I'm not against it. Um, or will you be building something that is the job that you own into a business that you own,
Yeah.
where the mistakes and the errors and the failures and the setbacks and the lessons, you have a higher potential of being able to extract some sort of return on. You can profit
Mhm.
from these you know, maybe years of struggle because it's built into the pathway that in a way you own more than another path. So it's all, I mean, we have to choose. Like life is all about these different types of trade-offs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's rough. Yeah. Cause I remember, I think I was doing this channel. Yeah. It was like before it became like super stable. I don't know, thriving. I don't know what you call it, being in a good position. But I was thinking of that. I was like, man, I wish I just like became an accountant. Like it would have been so much like it's just so much easier. Like you're just doing your thing and you just get the pay and then you can just hang out after. And like I wish I was doing that because everything was just so uncertain. And you know, like I handle uncertainty, but I it it's hard. It's very hard to handle uncertainty all the
Had
time.
a wife,
Yeah.
had a kid, had a
Yeah.
couple kids, had a mortgage. Of course, like when you have passing, I mean, if you and I were just on our own, yeah, like you can be like, I'm eating peanut butter sandwiches like every, you
Yeah.
know, 3 times a day. Like there's a level of minimalism and stoicism that we can reach if we're flying solo. There's also a speed, there's a nimbleness, and that can happen because you're flying solo. But yeah, when you have other passengers on the ride, on your life path, you definitely have to take it into consideration of just like everyone absorbs it. I think as men, we think that sometimes it is like we will try to shoulder and we'll try to insulate, and yes, to a certain degree we can, but it is felt. Like it is felt in one way or another, whether it's less presence or less time or more distraction or more stress, or like there's always going to be different choices that we have to navigate and make. But yeah, man, it is hard. It's been hard, dude. So it's like it's gonna keep being hard.
Yeah.
In different ways. I pray to be blessed with those seasons where it can be a little like you can coast a little bit. It's nice because that kind of like puts a little wind in the sail of just like, okay, all right. Well, at least we had a moment, we had a window where it flowed.
Yeah.
But man,
that's why there's two things I was gonna say, and you don't really talk about it much, but you've told me about like when you first started coaching, you were doing it for like slices of pizza, and like that was like your payment. And that was back then when pizza was cheap, so it was probably like $3, maybe $2.
So where I, my where I grew up, there was a local bakery and they had like such great pizza, and it was such a deal to get like a slice of pizza. And yeah, but it was so delicious. I was willing to just be like, okay, you know what? I just want to be sharing the gift that I feel like God gave me. And I don't like, as long as there's an exchange. If you want to buy me a pint of Guinness, you want to buy me a slice of pizza, whatever it is, like I just want to spend as much of my day, as much of my time, exercising, flexing, doing the reps in this thing. And in some ways, like I look at that romantically, where I'm just like, wow, I need more of that abundance. I need more of that generosity, because you can, when you start charging, when you start profiting off of your passion, it can make a weird mix, right? It could really affect the energy and the heart of it in some ways.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, that guy just was there's a purity in it. But then when you make certain levels for like, hey, I made that for my time. Wow. I made that for the result that I produced. Wow. That's what I was able to earn. And then to give it away again for a slice of pizza or something like that. It's like a part of us, I'm too good for it now. Like,
yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Thinking back to those times, and, for like a lot of people don't know, because again, you kind of shoulder it, especially as a YouTuber, like no one cares fully what you're going through. Some guys start Patreons right away, but like I was at a point where the videos would get not taken down, but they would get limited. It was like, I don't know, 40 in a month. It'd be like half of them. I'd be like, what the hell's going on? And it would just be like, okay, well, I guess I did that just for the people. It's okay, whatever. Like it was just like that for the longest time. And I actually had to study law. I actually had to study fair use law. I had to study it and like find case law and present these arguments to the companies that were like doing this stuff, like copyright strikes and stuff like that. And I had to like really be willing to like almost go to court for some of the bigger guys, bigger podcasts. It was weird. But I was like, no, this is case law. I'm like, this set precedent. Again, like if you look at this part of the case, the judge says this, and like I have to actually like show them this and be like, this is against the law. You're breaking the law. And like eventually they started. I guess I'm whitelisted for a bunch of podcasts where they just kind of let me do it. But yeah, you had to fight. So it's like a lot of people are like, I wish I could just use clips and make videos. It's like, to go.
Think.
Yeah, like do it. Learn law.
Yeah.
First.
I mean, as soon as somebody steps on the other side of the screen and into the and like staring into the camera lens and you know, the amount of self-judgment and then the amount of external pressure or even like external threat like that, like you, I mean, that's 40-50 videos having like your financial opportunities from them completely halted from
Yeah.
some other external force. Jeez, like that is not no, that is not easy. You were forced to grow. You were forced to learn something that who wants to learn case law and have to defend themselves and spend all this extra time and energy trying to figure this out. It's like, man, that's 40 videos. That's not, no, that's not for the faint of heart, you know? So
Yeah.
I think people need to appreciate.
Especially when you're coming from a background of like, you know, being good at talking, but also, you know, just coming from a background of like lizard people and like hollow earth theory and stuff like that.
Dude, you know, like, because what I really wanted to say, I'm just like, is that spiritual warfare or what?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, you know, yeah, you're on to something there. You know, I was gonna say that in the earlier part of our conversation that, you know, sometimes that's exactly what it is. Like when your body's shutting down, like that doctor you were talking about, I really do believe that when you don't follow the thing that you're supposed to do, your life gets hard. And I think that's an intentional thing that's done to you by, you know, whatever external forces out there. And I don't think it's an evil thing. I think it's I think it's just what happens when you're fighting against your spirit. I think there's a sickness that takes place in people, and sometimes it manifests like that. Um, you know, sometimes it manifests in things just around you getting hard and relationships being bad and life feeling toxic. And it's because you're running from that thing. Like you're not in the proper flow. Like you a hose, like you're closing off that part. You're taking the hose and folding it. And it's like whatever is the thing that you're supposed to do, it's going to come out one way or another, whether it has to just swell up that part of the hose and bust out, or whether you're just going to give in and open up and just allow things to just run smoothly. Like it's going to come out one way or another. So yeah, I really do think that's a thing. I've felt it. I felt it in my life so many times.
I mean, in a very practical sense, it's a form of self-betrayal.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
abandon your values, your boundaries, when your mental energy, which I believe is your most valuable resource on this planet in this life,
Mm.
when you betray it, you start to pay the price. Like you can't. It's something that you can't ignore in the long run. Like eventually, you start to see the signs, and if you don't see the signs, you start to feel the signs. And your body starts giving up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's pain or you're just not at the level of health that you are in. Like I have a client right now who just never took vacation for many years, was there for family, for his employees, for his business, and constantly going, constantly giving, and knowing that I need to take better care of myself. Like I'm in my 40s, I got to take better care of my physical body. And getting to the point where the pain is so great that you have to do something about it.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I can't, this is not just conceptual. This is not just intellectual anymore. Like my body is actually screaming. I didn't listen to the whisper saying,
Yes.
my soul
Yes.
saying, hey, you're abandoning yourself here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't listen to the whisper. I waited too long. Now it's screaming.
Physical manifestation ends up happening. Like I said, it's going to come out one way or another, right? Whatever is in you, I always think of it like higher self is up there with God, with source. Your spirit is like the intermediate, and your soul's inside. So your spirit's constantly talking with your higher self, coming back down and being like, okay, so this is the report. This is the thing we're supposed to do. And you're not doing it. And, you just go back and forth. And eventually it's going to come out. And it's either going to come out as a YouTube channel or, an Etsy store or art or it's going to come out as sickness. Like there's going to be a physical manifestation one way or another, you know? And if you just like kind of embrace what you're supposed to do, maybe you don't give up everything. Maybe you just do it on the side. I don't know. But it's going to come one way or another. And that's what I see. I've even felt it myself. That's why I do comedy. That's why I do comedy. And that's why I'm doing these interviews, because I don't want to get sick. I was already sick. I actually had a kind of like what you're talking about with that doctor. I had the hormonal issues, and it was contributing to weight gain. It was making it so I just would gain weight, and it almost shut down my testosterone completely. Well, because my life. I'm trying to have kids, trying to have more. We already have one beautiful baby, and we want more. And once that started becoming under threat, I was like, oh. And now I actually have to take stuff for my testosterone. Now it doesn't impact fertility at all, but it's raising my testosterone, and it's making it so I'm losing weight. So I already dropped like 20 pounds, but
wow,
those things, they'll come. And it was basically stress. It was funny because I worked it out in ChatGPT. I was talking about all my symptoms, and it was talking about just like stress overload, cortisol overload, your cortisol being so high all the time. It's a stress hormone. It's like a testosterone killer. And then when your testosterone goes down, you're feeling depressed, you feel sick, you can't recover as well, weight gain constantly. So I saw that in ChatGPT, and then I actually went to a doctor and the endocrinologist, and they said the same thing. And I was like, wow. So, okay, this is actual. Because I broke it down the same way I did for ChatGPT for this doctor, and they were like, yeah, this is what I think's going on. And now I have to take this it's called like enclomiphene, I believe it's called. And it doesn't impact your fertility, but it raises your testosterone. In fact, it has positive effects on your fertility.
So what you're saying is you're on roids.
Yeah. My testosterone was low. It was like in the 200s. And
I gotta check. It's been a while since I got mine checked. I should do that again soon.
You should.
Like,
we should be doing that from the time we're 19 years old. We should be checking our testosterone. I didn't realize how important it was, but mine was like shut down. And I wish I had a path of checking it so I knew where it was at. But the fact that it was like in the 200s was not good. Doctor's like, this is like what, like in the 100s. Now you're more susceptible to all sorts of stuff, but it's almost like it's off. Like the signal between your pituitary, your gonads is like very, very faint to where it's almost done. So now it's a lot stronger. Now we're almost at 500, going to get to 900. Watch. I'm not going to wear a shirt in my podcast ever again.
You're going to bust out of the hoodie. It's going to be like, you know what? Like now that you talk about it, there's definitely, we can just look up like what are the signs and what are the symptoms of low testosterone.
Yeah.
Like off the top of my head, just from my own like very basic, like not an expert in any way, but just very basic level. Yeah, it's your, like, part of it is your mood. You're more likely to be, in a lower state, depressive state, harder to make decisions, physically holding on to, body weight, body fat, difficult to gain muscle, low libido, not waking up with erection, right? Like those are some signs that testosterone is down. And like you said, I think we should just get checked anyways. But those are definitely, it can really hinder us. I remember a friend of mine, he started to take replacements, and he's just like, whoa, like I just feel normal.
Yeah.
He was late 40s when he started doing it. And I'm just like, wow, that's so interesting that you just feel normal now. So it just goes to show, I wonder how many people are struggling with this issue, whether it's like the plastics in our food, the clothes that we're wearing, the food that we're eating, that we're not eating, our phones in our pockets, like all these things that could be really affecting. Are we sleeping? I feel like sleep is a huge one. Are we sleeping enough? Are we lifting enough? Are we
one?
There's a lot of these pieces.
I was staying up very late, and I know that was like a huge contributor. And then it was the stress of, I know I was under tremendous stress when my wife was pregnant. because I was like, am I going to be able to do this? Like, am I going to be able to provide? Like, this has been the thing I want to do. And like, am I going to be able to actually do this? So that was stressful. And then the sleeping, I was sleeping like maybe 4-5 hours a night. And realistically, you really do need like 7.5 to 9 hours a night. You need that. It helps tremendously. You wouldn't believe. And the thing is, with all this stuff, it's like, yeah, they're easy Google searches and you can use basic chat GPT to answer this. But then when it comes to actually checking and doing the things, it all costs money. And then that's going to be the roadblock that a lot of people have. They're like, I can't just spend money to check this thing and just have this arbitrary number in my hand afterwards. It's like, you know, but for me, I felt that way too. But then it became a thing where I was like, this is affecting everything, you know? So I had to like,
well, good for you for dialing it in, and, you know, it's helping you get to a place where you're feeling better and you're releasing the weight. And, you know, I feel like I really like what you said, that this is why you're doing comedy. This is why you're doing these interviews, because it's a part of what needs to be expressed. Otherwise it'll be expressed in other ways, like in like sickness. And so in some ways we got to think of, wow, so if my soul is sick, the medicine is doing the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, with me, it's not like I completely converted the channel over to interviews. It's like, okay, like, and I like talked this over with ChatGPT in terms of like I learned how to prompt really well. So I've been doing like this YouTube mastery thing and like just asking questions and like building up this memory relationship with it. So it like knows everything about me. It's audited my channel. Like it's very interesting the way all this works. Definitely not going to install it in my brain or anything, but you know, this is a good place. This is a good place that we're in, AI and I. But even it was saying, it's like, okay, don't shift over completely. It's like, just do 1 episode a week. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Like, I'm not going to shift. Like, it's just all in phases. Everything happens in phases. So like nice and slow, 1 episode a week, not to disturb the algorithm too much, but to do the thing that I want to do. This is what I want to do. You know what I mean? It's like, so yeah,
I'm glad, dude. I'm glad that you're doing this again, man.
Yeah,
I'm glad that I get to be a part of it today.
Yeah, bro. I'm telling you, it's Rogan style, man. I'll have you on again. I don't care.
It's Coach Colin style.
Like I have like I'm gonna have people who are reoccurring guests. Like, they're my friends. Like, I so understand Rogan now when he goes, yeah, it's my friend. Obviously, I'm gonna talk with my friend. Like, yeah, it just makes sense. Why wouldn't I have my friend on here? Like, we've known each other for so long. Right? It's like, I feel like it's been like 9 years. It's been like almost 9 years or something like that.
It started with a hug.
Yeah. Shout out to Brian Hardy. If I wasn't at that event for our friend Brian Hardy, we never would have met. And then I was standing with these hippies that were giving out free hugs, you know, and I was deep in the psychedelic bag. Not at the moment, but just in general, I was very open. So this one guy comes up, Oliver, and he's just like, what's going on here? Like, giving free hugs. And I gave him a hug, you know, in place of one of the hippies that were handing out hugs. And that was it. We knew each other ever since.
This is where the free hug. Where's my free hug?
Yeah,
you were just you were there. You're like, come here, man.
Isn't that weird?
That's a long time ago.
I wonder how much of that is I was just there and, you know, we just did it, and how much of that is like, you know the concept of like soul family, you know? And it's like, I'm not really, me myself, I'm not really open to touching people. I don't like being touched by people. Yeah, I don't like being touched by people I don't know. That's not like, I don't like that. You know, some people are fine with it, you know, like some people, you know, you slap them on the knee, or, you know, they'll, like, you know, it's fine. I have a thing with that, but with that, I was completely fine. And it felt very natural. And then all of a sudden we stayed in contact pretty much very regularly ever since. And then also on top of that, you ended up guiding me towards something that impacted my life so tremendously. You know, it's like, I wonder how much of that is just bumping into people in random, and how much of that is like this is the part that's supposed to happen, you know?
Well, my wife, she would say that we have soul contracts.
Mm,
You know, part of our spiritual development and journey here, you know, in this life, it's tied to certain people and certain things and certain dynamics. And you know, I wonder if that's the case as well.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, like there's
that's what I
some
mean.
people you're just like, wow, we're brothers. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you meet somebody, like, wow, this person gets, like, we get it.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's interesting, you know, that like in soul contract, soul family, it's the exact same concept. It's almost
Mhm.
like, you know, whenever you're up in source, you have those people that you say like, I'll meet you down there.
This is who we're journeying. This is what I'm
Yeah.
journeying with you.
Yeah, I'll meet you down there. Try and remember. Don't worry, I'll remember. You're not gonna remember,
Don't
but
remember anything.
we'll try. Okay. I'm gonna be over here. Okay. All right. You know, because it's not like, you know, it's not like we met when we were 5 and reconnected. You know, it's
Mhm.
decades and decades of life, and then randomly, you know, I have that with some people. Like, there's a comedian friend of mine, this guy Kevin Soldo. We met when I was producing a podcast with my buddy. It was a psychedelic podcast, Talking Mush, with my good friend Mike, and just randomly, one actor that I knew was like, you got to connect with this guy. I think he'd be great for the podcast. And we connected, and we've talked almost every day ever since. And it's like
Wow.
deep conversations. Right now, he's on the other side of the world. He's like in Slovenia or something like that, like chilling with like Orthodox Christian priests and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's this very, very, very interesting guy, super interesting guy. But it's like we just stayed in contact, like heavily. Like, that guy is my guy. I love that guy, and it's interesting to see things like that happen so effortlessly, you know?
I think if we are um we can be so distracted with our own stuff and so busy and in a frenetic pace in life and be so full that we could miss these moments.
Mm,
But I think if, like, there's a level of freedom, there's a level of stillness that we have, I think we could notice some of those nudges where it's like,
yeah,
wow, say hello to that person.
yeah,
Like, give this person your time. Ask
yeah.
this person how they're doing. Give this person a hug. And I feel like sometimes life, you know, God is trying to send people and resources to us.
Mm,
And man, if we're too distracted, we might just completely miss it.
yeah,
And we're so in like this this mentality of just trying to have everything very, very quickly. But man, you never know when or where someone is going to play a role in your life. You know, not every,
mm,
like, the person that you meet, like, you might realize the difference that they made in your life in 10 years.
yeah,
You have no idea.
yeah,
And there's so many instances that we can all go back to and just be like, wow, if this person didn't recommend this, if they didn't say that, maybe I wouldn't have made that decision. And then I
yeah.
wouldn't have met this person, you know, or started this project. Like, I don't know. I think there is definitely a level of openness that we got to have.
Yeah, because it doesn't come like some of the most life-changing things, the nudges, they don't come loud. They're like whispers. They're very much like whispers, where you got to really like be open. You got to be very diligent. You got to have your eyes open. You got to have all 3 eyes open, you could say.
Hmm.
You got to really be watching around, because, you know, I have so many instances of that type of thing, and each one of them have become like pillars in my life. Each one of those people. It's not like it was all fleeting. The only ones that were really fleeting were like exes who primed me to be better and more thoughtful when it came to this woman that I met that's now my wife, you
Mm.
know. Going through bad things or getting cheated on, and then being like, okay, I know what heartbreak's like. I'm never going to put this amazing person through anything like that, because I know what that's like. like those are the only instances. But
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that really shapes us, right? Like, I mean, I was reflecting with somebody just the other day. I remember when I was thinking about my vows when me and my wife were getting married, and
mm,
just thinking about our story, like together, and even before, like, because we had like a really, you know, long friendship before we actually fell in love. And I actually got to the place where I'm like, wow, I didn't realize I can hit this place of gratitude for all the people that, she's had as past loves.
mm, mm,
Because if it wasn't for that journey, she would not have turned into the version of her that I fell in love with. And
yeah,
like, it's really bizarre to be like, wow, I'm thankful for that. That's I didn't
it's
realize
a
that
hard
that's
one.
even a thing I could be thankful for.
Yeah, that's
But
a hard one. As a man, that's a hard one.
yeah, but I was just like, I'm like, however those ended up, and whatever, it's like,
Mhm.
they shaped her. The lessons, the
Yeah,
experiences, whatever it was, it's part of what turned her into the person that who's my wife. So
yeah.
it's really interesting how that can happen.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. Not my wife. My wife never talked to or met another person before me, and that's the story that I'm sticking to. It's rare. It's a rare story, I know, but
That's amazing. Time didn't exist before.
yeah, no. She rendered out of nowhere once I was ready, and that's how it
Right.
worked.
That's true. True. Manifested.
That's how angels work. That's how angels work. Uh,
Oh
but it's
man.
even meeting her, it was crazy because like we met on Tinder, and again, one of those things where it's like how much of that was random because it's like I was on Tinder, like I paid for it, like so I had unlimited swipes, like I was
And paid for it.
yeah, I didn't play around. And it was running out. The subscription was running out, and I'm like, I'm not paying for this again. This is crazy. And I'm just swiping. And I'm like, I'm only gonna swipe on blonde girls. That's what I like. I'm like, I'm only gonna swipe on blondes. And I remember
Filter.
seeing her, and I stop and I look, and if I just went, like, where would my life be if I just went the other way? But instead, I swiped that way. It's like she's blonde, she's pretty. There you go, and completely changed my life.
No way. Were
Complete.
you and you were like speeding
Oh
like
yeah, I was like,
quickly right before you
and then
landed on?
yeah, and I stopped and went, yeah, I was like assessing. I'm like, yeah, she's good to go. I'm like, okay,
See, like some things, man. It's like, is that a chance? Is that
right?
something
It
bigger? Because you could have
completely changed
easily
my
just been, oh, someone took your attention, and you're like, oh, and you just swipe oh,
yeah,
wow. Wow.
yeah.
That's amazing.
And it's like what had to happen. We didn't live close to each other, so she had just been at work. If she wasn't at work, she wouldn't have been in my radius. I wouldn't even have found her.
Oh,
If I wasn't at home and she was
at
at
that
work,
time.
yeah, none of that would have worked out. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, it's like best thing ever.
Yeah.
Supports me through all these things. Makes me actually is the catalyst that makes me want to be a better person and be more stable and like actually achieve things. And like here we are,
That is God.
right? Right?
Like to be in physical proximity for such a limited amount of time, and to be flipping through so quickly, only to stop on her profile, and then it changes your entire life. I mean,
Yeah.
how else? Like, how else
Yeah.
do you explain that? That's magical, man.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, right. It's like stars aligned, truly. And yeah, it changed everything. So it's like it just makes you wonder how many little things could change your life or have changed your life. And we don't register it, right? Like Steve Jobs said in his like commencement speech, it's like you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just have no idea. And that's why it's so important. Again, when you talk about those whispers, it's so important to listen up. and really know, like, okay, like this is the thing that I should do. This is the thing that I should step into, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know what was really weird? Kind of in the same vein of the topic, kind of like weird stuff. Somebody, I don't know who this person was. They watched the show, and I guess they're a little bit of a visionary of sorts. And I don't see all the comments. Again, like little weird things. I don't see all the comments. I can't. Some people think I'm just reading comments all the time. I don't see them all, especially on the app. It only shows you 3 comments out of your last 3 videos, right? So one person leaves a comment that says, listen, I know you're not going to understand this and you don't know me, but in April or May, you are going to have to take a major leap of faith and you're going to have to trust yourself. And then come May, I'm traveling, and around May is when I decide to start doing these interviews. And also, a friend of mine took me to the Comedy Mothership, but it wasn't like he's my good friend, Mike Plaster. Shout out to Mike Plaster. But I guess just the way he had it hooked up, he knows everybody there. He like works with like Eddie Bravo, and Eddie Bravo's friends with Rogan, and he's friends with all the people who are like security and stuff. But just the way it worked out, it was such a moving experience. It wasn't like a regular comedy show, And it was weird because she was talking about leaps of faith, and I had to make a bunch that month. And when it came to the comedy show that we went to, I was thinking I have to go to the mothership. I did not say it. I did not say it to people. And he messaged me like as if we were talking. He goes, hey, if you want to go to the Comedy Mothership, we can go like Wednesday or Friday. I just got to let my buddy know. Like as if I said it to him. I checked the messages. I'm like, did I just say this to this guy? And it was so weird. And it was right before I left traveling to like go like across America. It was so weird. It was such a weird instance. And it was such a amazing moment. Like it was like so much more. It was a comedy show, but it was more than that for me because I was in the place. Rogan was there randomly. Joey Diaz was there randomly. I met Joey Diaz. Like I was in the vicinity of these guys that I look up to, and it was just wow, such a weird experience just out of nowhere. But yeah, he just got me in. He was just like, didn't cost anything. He's just like, yeah, tell me when you want to go. And it's like, just another instance with like a Michael. Like I think I've told you before, I've had a lot of run-ins with Michaels, and they always help me through transitionary points in my life. They always help me through things. Like when I was in the streets, I was taken care of by a guy named Michael. Like he would always like make sure I was good. And then when I had to leave the streets, a guy named Michael, my good friend Michael, love you, Michael. He bailed me out pretty much. He's like, whatever debts you have, let me know. He's like, let me know how much it is. He's like, let's get you out of this. This is stupid. You don't have to do this stuff anymore. And I got out of it, changed my life there. I just always been taken care of. 2 Michaels. I pray to Archangel Michael.
Dude, I was just gonna say, yeah, Saint Michael is definitely present in your life, life path.
Yeah. My middle name's Michael. My dad's middle name's Michael. My grandfather's middle name's Michael. Yeah. When it came to losing weight, like this guy, you might even know Mike Massini. This guy Michael, he helped me.
Sounds
tremendously.
Familiar.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we're in the same circles. I'm pretty sure you probably have him on Facebook. He helped me. It's like, at one point when I was starting the clothing company, I was thinking like, should I be starting this clothing company? And I was in a fitting room getting my first Soul Not For Sale shirt like made. Like I had it made. It was too big and I was getting it like fitted to my body. And I was like, should I really be doing this? I'm like it's a clothing company. Like, what is this? And then outside, I don't know. I never saw the person either. Never saw him because he was gone by the time I opened up the thing. I just hear, hey, it's me, Michael. and that for me was like just a sign. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on the right path. Like I don't need any more nudges. But like it's just speaking to like being you got to be very observant in your life as to what's going on. It's weird.
Yeah, I
Wild
think
stuff.
the timing of all of those are definitely, I mean, divine timing.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Interesting stuff, man. Very interesting stuff.
Oh, and Archangel Michael has been yeah, that's been very, very present, as well. So it's amazing that you just brought that up.
Oh, really?
That's so cool.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's funny. A lot of people, I guess I could say like we were like in a like in when as I was in this almost like hippie path, I was like deep in the psychedelics and the festivals and all that stuff. I would say you're like part of that circle. We know a lot of the same people within that realm, and you see more and more. It's like funny with you, like people turning to God after a while. Yeah, I've been seeing that a lot. Been seeing it online, but I've also been seeing it in the people that I know. It's interesting.
Something is definitely happening. Um, I don't know what it is in the world and what it is for people at an individual level,
Mhm.
but everyone is having their own type of experience, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe a part of it is like, I mean, for me, I feel like being confronted with darkness,
Mm.
like actually seeing evil in the
Yeah.
world,
Mhm.
and not just even in the world, but very close and intimately, and
Mhm.
acknowledging the reality of it. It just awoke a different level of spirituality, because there was a time where I was very um, atheistic and
Yeah.
agnostic and very
Mm.
against religion,
Yeah.
you know and I've explored and been in through different traditions that I've studied at varying levels, and but still very agnostic. And actually, when I think about it, I was most likely, for the majority of it, I would say, like, maybe it's not even a real thing, but like, how entheogen is another word for psychedelics. Have you heard of this?
Entheogen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, which is entheos. N-E-N is internal, inner. Theos is God. And entheogen is using plant medicines to awaken the divine within. So I would say
Mhm.
maybe for many years I was more of like an entheist, kind of like acknowledging, okay, there's God within us, within everything, and okay, there's a level of that. um but definitely more recently, being confronted and seeing the reality of some of the evils of our world, of humanity, and
Mhm.
even at a close, intimate level, which we've talked about like privately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That really awoke, like, okay, well, what combats, what conquers this evil? And it really did start with Archangel Michael, in a big way, because Archangel Michael is like, he battles the devil. He crushes the head, of the
Mhm.
devil. And then that kind of led me, on a path of just reconnecting with God in a very different way, of just like, okay, this is the force. This is the force that actually combats and conquers evil, which I don't believe I was able to see in other places in the
Mhm.
same way. You know, if you look in like a new agey way, if you look in a spiritual but not religious way, if there's all these other pathways that don't necessarily address the problem of evil. And I think
Yeah.
that brought me, like, forced me to reconnect with God in a very different way, to realize that there's more to learn. There's more of a relationship for me to build with God that I didn't realize could be built. I didn't realize God was relational,
Mhm.
and so, maybe, like, for me that was the case. Like, and also feeling like attacked. If, like, there's been multiple directions where I could only explain like, wow, how are so many layers and so many areas of our life being so dramatically hindered and decimated and disrupted, and
Mm.
like, how is that even happening? It really, it feels like the word that I said earlier, it feels like spiritual attack,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So I'm just like, I need to pray, I need to commune with, I need to get the help of like the highest possible good there is on, you know, in the universe, right? Like what, like who is that and what is that? And
Mm.
that's when it just like it's been a process, and it feels like it's been a decades long process in a way. But I'm sure the rest of humanity and the people that we're seeing in our circles or even in the world, like people coming to God in their own timing and in their own way, I feel like maybe that's why things are so hard right now. Maybe that's why things are so divided and disrupted and separated, and there's so many
Mm.
different little battles and little wars to be having and being right and making people wrong. Maybe there's so much of that because we're like what you were saying, if it's left if it's left ignored, it's going to manifest somehow. There's a sickness that's going to come up, and maybe that's what it is. The sickness is finally coming up to the surface, and people
True.
are like, "What's the medicine? Like,
True.
what's the medicine that's going to heal the soul of our planet, of humanity?" We got to go back. We got to go back to God. We got to
Mm.
who is He? What is He? How do I get to know Him? And what does that mean for me? Yeah, those are some of my like kind of like aspects of what I've been through when it comes to that path.
Yeah. Yeah. I notice a lot of people, especially in this episode that I just did, it was about demons. Rogan was talking about how demons, they were basically having a conversation about like, how wild people get. And Rogan was saying like, maybe some of this is like demon possession and we don't realize it kind of thing. And his guest was
Yeah.
like, no, no. His guest was like, no, that's just us. And Rogan was like, that's exactly what the devil would want you to think. He'd want you to just take complete responsibility for the things that he's putting forward. And the thing that I started playing around with in this episode was thought processes and idea concepts being like demons, being like parasites and causing demonic type of behavior, right? And one example I used was Jordan Peterson just talking about, he was talking about, the, green initiatives throughout the world. And he was talking about how he's heard well-to-do, good people, compassionate people say that there's too many people on the planet. And he started like
Yeah.
diving into that. He's like, well, then he's like, who are these people who are too much? And how do you suppose you get rid of them? And like, who's going to be in charge of that? And what's going to be the reason? Like, what are you going to do? Like, what do you, and basically he was like, what are you saying? He said, he's like, people who say things like that. He's like, it sounds like Satan has like reached up their spine and is like working their mouth, because
Mhm.
you're talking about getting rid of people. There's only one way to get rid of people. We don't have Elon taking us to Mars anytime soon. So you're talking about ending lives, right? So it's interesting how these thoughts and there's certain thought processes and where it's in the guise under the disguise of being compassionate, and in
Mhm.
reality it's something much darker. And one thing that Peterson said, he goes, what makes you think the what you're uttering isn't aiming at exactly that? So it's like, what makes you think you're saying there's too many people, but then also if somebody brings up you saying, okay, so you're talking about, just like a mass cleansing of people, that person would look at you and go like,
Heard that
that's
one
not
before.
right. Like that person would look at you and go, that's not what I'm saying. But it's like, what makes you think that idea isn't aiming at exactly that?
It lives in that idea, lives in the hotbed, the environment of that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I think we have,
Exactly.
man, I think there's been tremendous benefit from the level of, psychological, emotional awareness and, um, studies that have been done, and that entire field when it comes to mental health. And there's a tremendous benefit to it. It's very healing, and it provides the support for individuals. And so there's nothing to take away from that. But I'll tell you from a personal experience, like if I have, I've been going through a lot the last couple of years,
Yeah.
like I was saying earlier. And I believe that, yes, we can have negative thoughts, we can have doubts, we can have worry, anxiety, fear, inadequacy, unworthiness. We can have so much of this happening. We can also be picking up other people's energy, because we're
Mhm.
such permeable beings. We're picking up, and the world, the stuff that's happening in the world, we are in the world, right? Like we are connected to each other. So we're the dense energy, we are carrying it. And dude, I will tell you, man, if I was just using psychological, emotional terms and lingo to try to combat it. If I was just saying, well, just think positively, just
Mhm.
like be more optimistic and look at the bright side and be grateful. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe those are tools that can work in certain instances. But dude, I will tell you, because with the stuff that, I've been living through,
Mhm.
this is what I started saying. I'm not going to the gym to get stronger, to lift weights, to lose weight, to build muscle, to look good in a t-shirt. Like I'm going to the gym to get the devil out.
Yeah.
And as soon as I named it that, I'm getting the devil out. And I would go and I'd hit the weights, and it would be that clear intention, that clear identification. I'd walk out, I'm a different person. Okay?
Huh.
And then you have things like intrusive thoughts. What's intrusive? Something from the outside going in. My wife
Yeah.
like taught me this, and she reframed this for me. What do you mean outside thoughts are coming in? It's like, wait,
Mhm.
hold on a second. Are these my thoughts?
Mm.
Or is there a little, sorry, there's a little demon?
It's all good.
Is that the devil? And like, if I say, like, get behind me, Satan, like Archangel Michael, protect me, God help me, get behind me, Satan,
Mhm.
essentially. Or like get this, the demon of fear, of inadequacy, of unworthiness, of lack, of scarcity, of all these things, get behind me, get the hell out of here. If I name it that, what happens? And dude, there's times where, yeah, okay, there's just thoughts that are just happening. And there's other times where I think it is like it is. There are some times where there's a spiritual reality, there's a supernatural reality that's happening that we can't see.
Yeah.
And as soon as we name it that, what happens? Like for me, I experienced like an immediate shift. I was like, wow, as soon as I started naming it, it started to move in a very different direction. Are we immune? Are we forever protected? Is it gone for? No, it's not. Like it's because it's a constant, it's a constant reality that we are interfacing, but it's not in our in the scene realm. And
Yeah.
so it's interesting what happens as soon as we name it in these particular ways, and say, like, I'm getting the devil out, I'm getting the demons out, like
Yeah.
there was a soul level shift that started happening, that terming it intellectually wasn't making the same difference.
As soon as you name it, especially that way, you have a way of combating it. If it has no name, you don't have really a method of combating it. If you give it the name of, or if you start looking at it like demons, like these intrusive thoughts, demons, parasites, whatever you
Mm,
want to, whatever it is, when you start looking at it that way, you can actually start dealing with it. Now, you can deal with it through the means of Christianity and what we're taught in the Bible. If you're Muslim, they have a book, a structure for dealing with it. If you're Jewish, they have a book, a structure for dealing with it. But it's until you name it that. Every culture, religion has a way of dealing with demons. So the second you start naming it that, Satan, demons, all of a sudden you're equipped with this book of instruction of how to actually deal with it. But, one thing that I noticed with people, they had exactly in the comment section of that video, they had exactly what you were saying. A lot of people were like, you realize demons are real because you're confronted with them. You start realizing when you're actually up against evil, when you're actually feeling the presence of evil, you start realizing. Like, okay, this is real. That was like something for me. I was like, okay, this is real. So there must be something, like you were talking about before. There must be something that combats this. There can't just be this ultimate evil and then there's nothing on the other side. There has to be this ultimate good as well. And it's like, how do I get in touch with that? Because I don't like the presence of whatever this evil is. How do I get in touch with this good?
And if people don't believe, like, if people are like, no, there's no such thing as the devil or evil or demons, it's like, man, do you scroll? And do you pay attention at all? Like, I feel like it's is it not obvious just right there? Like, what are you talking about? How are we seeing the same thing from these two different lenses?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Oh
it's
my God,
so
man.
true. Yeah, that's a perfect way of putting it, right? Like, I mean, just society today, what we hold up. Like I made this episode, it was like a standalone episode, one of the rare ones where like I didn't have any clips or anything. And I was talking about how hedonism, and I believe it was hedonism and socialism, and there was something else, but I was talking about how,
Relativism?
sorry?
Relativism?
No, it was something else I was talking about. And I was just talking about how they've kind of joined hands. And because there's certain things like, the socialist types feel like everything should just be taken care of. They shouldn't have that responsibility. The hedonistic types have this feeling of like, I should just be able to do whatever I want with whoever I want. And I shouldn't have to think about anything counter to what I want. And I was just talking about, and then there was something else I was talking about, and I was talking about how they all joined hands, and as society keeps moving towards, like, moving in this way, it becomes demonic. It slowly starts to become demonic. And the only reason I bring that up is because, like, yeah, like, do you scroll? Do you see what's being held up as something, as people to be put on pedestals? And do you see what people are frowning upon? And I always have, being black, I have the black community to look at and go, we are constantly, I always say, we're constantly putting the worst of us, we praise the worst of us and we demonize the best of us. Like, I see it constantly. And, that's something that's, definitely outside the black community as well. We're just seeing that constantly. We're the people who are admittedly doing blood rituals like Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, who are doing all of this weird stuff. They're on this pedestal. They're the stars. They're the ones. But the people who are like the regular guy, with 4 kids, 5 kids, who just gets up and works every day, that guy's a square. That guy's a loser. He doesn't have a Bugatti. He doesn't have anything. Doesn't even paint his nails. He's like just some weird guy, the garbage man. You know what I mean? The men who are the lifeblood, and women who are the lifeblood of society, right? Like, they're looked at as like, they're just like normies. And all of these demon-like people are like on this pedestal, absorbent amounts of money, lifestyles that we all are supposed to look up to and want so badly. And it's just like, like exactly what you said. Do you scroll at all? Like, to think that there's not something afoot is nuts to me, really. Like, there's clearly something going on. It's funny because even Rogan has turned to God.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
he's now going to a church.
With the things that, I relate because I know the things that I have said about people who believe in God. I know the judgments and criticisms and eye rolls. Like, I think Joe Rogan, like, there's plenty of clips of things that he's said.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
and so I have an empathy for that. So, like, when I am more and more owning this part of my path and myself, I can hear an old version of myself. So let alone what other people might think. Like, that pales in comparison to the things that I have said.
Yeah, true.
And thought.
True.
So, to get to a point where that shift is made, I mean, like, I believe something big has had to have happened. Something big had to have happened for him to make that shift.
I think he got attacked. I think here's what I think on the front facing side. I think he got attacked by CNN. I think he felt cancellation attacks. I think he's seen media and whoever's the forces behind media colluding against him to like take away his livelihood, to the point where he even revealed former presidents called Spotify to get him deplatformed from Spotify. 2 former presidents called.
Let me guess who.
I don't know. I'm thinking Obama. I'm thinking Obama and Clinton. That's the only people I can think of. Maybe George Bush Jr. I don't know. Because at the time, Biden was president. I don't see Trump doing that. You know, I see Obama. I see possibly Clinton, because Clinton's going to do whatever hell Hillary tells him to do. You know what I mean? Like, this guy, he better do whatever she tells him to do.
Oh,
There's serious issues if you don't listen to Hillary. But I think
I do see like that.
Yeah, I think on the front facing side, it was that. And I think there's things that we're never privy to in his life, just like all of us, that happen behind the scenes, you know, things that we're engaged in around, and we start realizing that something dark is around us. I had a very distinct encounter. Like, I think I even talked about it. Like, I had like a weird sleep paralysis, like demon type of thing, like on top of me. And what it felt like, what was like trying to get into my head. I felt I've never in my life experienced anything like this. The amount of pressure that I felt, and it was like a ping. It was like this crazy amount of pressure on my head. It was like something was trying to get in. And it was a weird thing because I was sleeping, and it was like my astral body got up and rolled off the bed. And then I looked up and saw it, and it was just scared and froze, and then like slowly woke up, and I was like still on the bed. And I just remember that. And that was like the darkest experience. And that's when I was like into like weird meditations. You know, there's a lot of flame staring and stuff like that. And a lot of setting up altars for things. And just like for the elements and stuff. And my sister was like, because she's like a lady, like knows about like Wicca and stuff like that. She's like, oh, you're doing like pagan stuff. And I was like, I am. And she's like, yeah. She's like, you have the elements out, you're praying, you have a red blanket, the elements are on top of it, you're staring into a light. She's like, yeah, this is like, she's like, this is almost like witch stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, okay, I gotta never do that again. I'm like, I had no idea. I thought
was that before you had that moment?
No, that was like after I talked to my sister. It was after that, and I started realizing like, oh, okay, I've possibly been moving towards something that I didn't realize, you know. And it was funny because well, not funny, but every single night I would go to sleep really late. This is very. I would always, because I lived in a basement and the stairs were wooden, every night, like 3 a.m., I would hear like little creaks on the stairs.
Oh.
And for some reason, it was completely dark, and I would always get called to say, Jesus, please help me. Jesus, protect me. Please, Jesus, God, protect me. Like, I would always just do that. And I wasn't a religious person. I was like you. I was not a religious person. But for some reason, in the presence of whatever that is, I would always call out to Jesus. Always. Always. And then whatever.
That is powerful.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird.
Like to get to a point, I mean, or these moments, you know, where you're so freaked out and you're so vulnerable. You're so vulnerable at 3 o'clock in the morning, and like you're in your bed, you're under the covers, and it's dark, and only the bad thoughts, only the bad, you know?
Yeah.
And even though you had no, you know, maybe you had no relationship with Jesus the way that you do now, or God, you still prayed that prayer.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because I had these moments where I was just like, maybe in the past year, where I'd be praying and I would have these weird glimpses of just like, oh, if I was on my deathbed, if I was dying, like right now, I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
I would pray to Jesus.
Yeah.
And that said, like, it almost kind of, this is within the last year, kind of, it just communicated something to me. I'm just like, wait, what? Why? Like, why is that? Like, why is it if I was facing death, having been exposed to and appreciated, respected, having reverence for many traditions, just for, in my particular instance, the first thing that came up was, if I was, and even like if I was on my deathbed, that's what I like. This is where I would go. So it
Yeah.
just it just spoke to me in a way where I was just like, huh, there's something there. So I wonder if that's potentially what the world is going through, or maybe what Rogan is going through,
Yeah.
like in his own private way, that he's had some of his own types of encounters that just like, oh wow, why is that? Why did that come up?
You never know, man. Like, listen, he's like Hollywood, like all this stuff. We're seeing more and more that it's real. They're becoming more and more open to it. He knows a lot of people in Hollywood. He could have easily had a very dark experience, or being called by certain people. Maybe they're inviting him to certain places. He said he got invited to Bohemian Grove and he didn't go. And like maybe he's just like, wow, there's like really these people who really have this belief system and they're really after me. And maybe I should just declare that, I'm going to church. Like, he's not putting it out there completely like I'm a Christian, but he's going to church. When he talks to Wes Huff, he's like in awe of like this scripture that Wes Huff gave him. That was like a really old scripture. He's like pretty moved by it at one point. He's very emotional in the interview. And now he's going to church. And he admitted to his Hollywood friends, he's like, yeah, I've been going to church. He's like, it's a good place.
And he knows that he knows saying that to certain people makes it, it gets out there. So there's a level of, I'm sure when you have that much attention, you got to be conscious on certain things that you announce, things that you say that you are attending or believing or exploring. So yeah, good for him, man. Like, good for him. And good for us, dude. Good for us. You know what I mean? Because the life is scary. There's things that are happening in this world, and at a very material level. Like, I think there's one client, and this is way before I started to kind of get into this place with my own relationship with God.
True.
And I was still more spiritual and not religious. But I had this one client who did so well. He was doing so well. Like, we worked together and he was achieving the things, like grow my business and exit my business and invest in other businesses and have all this time and freedom and choice. And so he reached a level of, freedom that most of us would dream of and be thankful for. And yet there was a level of like meaninglessness and a level of feeling lost, having attained all these things. And it just came out of me. I'm just like, have you tried praying? I've never said stuff. Dude, before that, I would never say that to clients before. But I'm just like, why did that come out? I'm like, have you tried praying? And then it got to this conversation of just like, well, what's the highest possible meaning that there is? What's the highest possible good that there is? And it's like, oh, you mean like spirituality? And I'm like, I mean, you said it. I'm like, that's what it is for you. I would say so. And then we have like this kind of like this check-in in different life areas, health and fitness and family and relationships. And then one of them is spirituality, like whether it's like just peacefulness or meditation or presence, or maybe it is more on like relationship with God or prayer, or he's like, yeah, I still do those check-ins that you taught me, but I always leave that section blank. And I'm just like, and so think about what you just reported to me feeling after all the things that you've accomplished, and then connect that dot with, you do all these weekly or monthly check-ins with yourself, and that's the part you always leave blank. Connected? Not connected. I think that's what it is, where if I change my career, if I change where I live, if I change what I do, if I, we think there's some external things that we can do, and I'm like, yeah, I think it's great. We can do what's purposeful and passion, or what our passions are, and we can reinvent our identities and things like that. But will those give you the level of meaning and fulfillment and wholeness and completeness in the same way? 13 years doing this, man, I don't think so. Like guiding
Yeah.
people who are all like high achieving types of people who, if you set your mind to it, it's going to happen. But then eventually you're just like, oh, well, they're the high, like the high, and then you just come back to stasis. You're just a regular
Mhm.
person,
Yeah.
living a day to day life.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? When you're talking about prayer and everything like that, it's funny that when you're talking with all these high achievers, the people who are, religious, Christian, whatever, um, the ones who give glory to God seem more fulfilled. And the ones who have kind of their achievements on their own shoulders, like I did this myself, they're the ones who feel kind of empty. It's interesting.
Dude, because it's like, because I lived it, so I'm only saying from my personal experience, and I could only imagine that people relate. And I mean, I've seen how like people deeply relate to this in an intimate way, because I work with people in a very deep way. um it's very small, man. It is incredibly small if it's all you, if it's only you. Because think, like, just feel the energy, right? Just I'm gonna say two distinct realities, or perspectives, and just feel the energy of it. What is my purpose? Like, what are my gifts? What do I want? And then shift it to this other perspective. What is God's purpose for me?
Hmm.
What are the gifts that God carved into me?
Oh,
What
wow.
does God want from my life?
Yeah. Oliver's in his bag right now. You guys don't even know. It's like a
Dude,
session right now. He's
I'm
in his
getting
bag.
goosebumps because that's like I'm getting real goosebumps, because that's the relationship that I'm starting to shift into, of just like, huh,
Mhm.
not mine, his.
Yeah.
What if my business isn't mine? What if it was his, and I'm just a vehicle? I'm just a mechanism to deliver healing and growth and transformation. Like, would that make me have more reverence and respect and honor with how I spend my time and my day and how I present myself and the work that I do? My friend, I feel that it has been. Like, I feel that it has brought more of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot to grow into. There's a lot to work on. There's a lot of messes, man. But like shifting that, I'm just like why me? Why is it all about me? My purpose, what I want, what my dreams are, what my gifts are. Like, what does God want from me? Where does God want me to point my gifts?
Mm.
It changes the conversation. Now all of a sudden there's something much bigger.
Yeah. 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 I feel it. I definitely feel it. I've been thinking of that for a while. And also, I mean, like you are definitely maybe a vessel brought to me, maybe something was working through you, but also what happened with the podcast, another part of it was, um, I think I told you about that job that I got and I had to let go of it because I had to like pay rent. And then I was really upset with God because I had gotten this job. I lied my ass off to get it. And
Oh,
and then I was doing Uber Eats at night while working this job in the day. And I realized I'm like, I have to do Uber Eats more because I need to pay rent. And if I don't pay rent, like we're so I actually have to not show up to this job. And then I just realized I'm like, I can't do this. And I just can't do the job. And I was so upset. And I remember I was in like a little roundabout parking, like a little development, little housing development. I was doing a 3-point turn. And I was like, why would you do this to me? Like, why are
mm.
you doing this to me? like again, like, why do you keep doing stuff like this to me? And then I had already been in the Christian men's group already, and they're talking about leaps of faith, like having faith and God providing, and I was like, and some calm went over me, and I was like, I guess I just have to have faith. Like, I guess this is one of those points where I have to have faith that everything's gonna work out. And literally, like 2 months later, the podcast like took off. Like 2-3 months later, podcast took off.
Dude, thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
You know
That was like the real catalyst. That was like the real turning point where I was like,
that's
like
massive.
I dug in because I was like, I guess this is just what I'm doing. And the thing was, because of your training, I already had some clients, right? I had some clients already. I was doing Uber Eats. I'm like, okay, the world's not ending. I'm like, my finances are still, I'm not providing, but at least I can still help. I'm like, me and my wife have things half and half. I'm like, whatever, fine. This is just where we're at. And yeah, just like 3 months later, it just skyrocketed. It went from me wanting to buy dinner to me being able to buy groceries and pay the rent. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. Wild.
Dude, I can relate to that so much, man. Like, I feel like there was a major turning point for me that was very similar for you, which was just over a year ago, maybe 15 months ago, where things were so much like I couldn't even believe. I felt like I was staring into the abyss and it was staring right back at me. And I was just like, I was scrolling through Instagram and there's this one lady that I know, and she had this interview where she was on, and she said she was talking about like losing her grandma, but she said these words: God, why did you abandon us? Like, why now? Why did you leave us right now? That she felt so abandoned by God.
Mm-hmm.
And just those words, I was in tears. I told her afterwards, I'm like, that hit me so hard because I didn't realize how angry I was that God allowed these things to happen and has
Yeah.
been allowing these things to happen that were so difficult and so crushing and stripping away. And still I feel like we're being stripped away of so much. And like just feeling that utter sense of loneliness and just like, why now? Why would you leave us now? I felt that, dude.
Yeah.
And then it was only a short while after that where I'm just like, but also I can't do it without you.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
I can't do this on my own. I need you, and I have to learn I have to surrender, to what your will is. And I'm going to give it to you now. Whatever my stress and my anxiety, my worry, my fear, all these doubts, all of these things, I'm submitting it to you. I can't carry this anymore. And that's when a lot more peace, like, it's not 100% fixed or like sunshine and rainbows, but on the path of like a lot more peace, a lot more consolation. But man, what you said, yeah, there's been major moments, there's been tiny moments of like, really? Like, really, you're gonna let this happen? Like girl, what's happening? And then you have to step back and just be like, okay, there's a path, there's a plan for me, there's a reason. It is, and I think that might be the mistake that some people have, is that you're completely just passive and you don't do anything. It's like, no, it's your will, and you align it with God's will. It's not like just God's will and you just sit back.
That's very much like you remember back in the day, The Secret. So many people like hated The Secret because they're like, oh, you're just supposed to like think good things and like good things, and it's like, and good things will happen to you. And it's like, no. Like, you have to work. You have to work. You have to think of the good thing and then work a lot. And then like, that's how it works. Like, it doesn't just come to you. And it's like the same thing with that. It's like, it's not just prayer and walk away. It's prayer and start moving towards something. And that the strength is going to be given to you, to get through the walls and the pitfalls and the, all the things that end up coming up, putting that armor on, in a sense.
And I think kind of like what you were saying before, right? It's like if it's just about my strength, I will like collapse.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I am if I believe that there's a power that's higher than me, more powerful than me, and I'm
Yeah.
leaning on that, then it changes the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there's a
There's
whole
really
part of the equation that I will have no idea what the other part of the equation is.
yes.
It's not mine to know. I just
Yeah.
got to do my part.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing for me. The hardest thing is not. I'm always praying for clarity. I'm like, I just need clarity in what I'm doing, and the clarity comes, but it's not like not the way I want it. Like clarity of the next 20 years or something like that. But it's like a little shift will happen. Somebody will say, "This was the funniest video I've ever seen," and I'll be like, "Okay, I understand. Thank you, thank you." And then
So sometimes maybe it's like,
someone else will say like, "Shut up." And take this video down, and I'll be like, okay,
dude,
this is
sometimes
part of
honestly,
it.
man, it's so like I'm always reminded like sometimes the comment section is so beautiful and sometimes it's just the armpit of the internet, man. I'm just like, what is like why am I reading through like
Man, it's worth it. It's worth it for the good people. The good people that come from it. Like there's a guy, his name's Smokestack online, but his name's Brian. Like I know him. He's on my live streams, on my comments. He sends me videos and stuff like that. And he's a great guy. And to sort through, it's kind of like life. There's a lot of people in the world, but you sort through and you find good people, and you can keep those good people with you. And it's like the whole journey of the mud and getting through all that is worth it because you find these good people that are there. So it's like the comment section sucks, but it's just like a big city. You're in a big city. There's a lot of people just bumping into you, and they don't care about you, and this and that. And then you find somebody that's looking for a free hug, and you got you got a friend for life all of a sudden. And it's great.
100%, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, did you hear about Liver King?
I saw briefly a little bit about him wanting to fight Rogan and then getting arrested and then getting an ankle thing monitor and still threatening him. Like what?
Oh yeah.
What the hell is that?
He's not playing games. He's ready to fight Joe Rogan. He's going for it. And,
is he a trained fighter in any way?
No.
Oh,
Rogan would hurt him very badly. Oh yeah. Man,
I didn't think so.
You should see one of Rogan. I say it all the time. Rogan's head security guy that's like 10 feet away from him when he's on stage, maybe like 11, 12 feet away. He looks like he's related to Wolverine. This guy, I don't know what this guy is or what he was, whether he was special ops. I don't know if he was a Green Beret or special ops, but this guy looks like he could handle 10 people at once. Real smooth. That's what he looks like. He is just a very threatening looking individual. And if you get through that guy, then
there's still a heel kick. Like
there's still the black belt in jiu-jitsu and national champion in taekwondo. It's like it's just wild. It's just wild. But you know what? I was thinking of that when I asked you that is because when I first started this channel, I was like, I was looking at people through a coaching lens of what could be wrong with these people. And one of the
could be wrong. Yeah, that's the way coaches look at things at people. What could be wrong with this person?
But one of the first videos I did that did like slightly well for me at the time was Liver King, because he had just gotten outed for his steroid use.
I think I'm remembering these.
Yeah, and I was talking about it, and I'm like, this guy seems like, I was looking at it from like a perspective of like, from wellness, and looks like he just needs some help, and he's talking about being bullied, and he just seems like, but like, what do you think's wrong with him now? Like, what do you think's going on there? Because it can't just, like, a lot of people, and I've even made the joke, a lot of people are like, it's just drugs. And I'm like, that can't just be drugs. Because he seems like he's talking about being bullied. He's saying Rogan bullied him.
What did Rogan say?
Rogan, well, the guy who broke
cracking jokes.
cracking jokes, the guy who broke the story about Liver King's steroid use went on Rogan's podcast. So it went from like 500,000 people knowing about it to like 20 million people knowing about it as soon as he went on the podcast. And then he had an apology video. Rogan played that on his podcast, laughed at him while he was doing this apology video. It was like a solid 20 minutes of just making fun of Liver King, and that wasn't the only time that happened.
My gosh!
So I'm thinking this guy really, like, imagine, like, again, looking at it from like a wellness perspective, like we're coaches here.
Well, when you lose that much body fat, you have thin skin.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, there's that. And also, like, just imagine your life falling apart like that. And then there's this guy who's like the most famous person in the world, and he's just kicking you while you're down. Like, really kicking you while you're down, you know?
I don't know him. I don't know enough about the situation. What I mean, just from like a passive onlooker, it sounds like he must be very vulnerable and very humbled from what he's gone through, the Liver King.
Yeah.
You know, being so outed and such a blatant type of lie. And then also because of the level of skyrocketing popularity and the claims that he made. And there's a I mean, you can't deny it. There's a humor about just like the whole picture, the whole image of this, you know, like what he touted. So like, yeah, I feel like, yeah, you can be very, very vulnerable when something like that happens. And then on top of it, to have the most popular media outlet, which is JRE.
Exactly.
Just outlet in general.
Yeah.
To spend that much time and energy adding to it, like piling on even more. Yeah, I could see how that could hurt somebody. And yeah, I mean, I think you can be in such a like main character mode, like narcissist mode of just like, I'm the greatest, look, like I am the Liver King, look at me. And then be so dethroned, and then have that on top of like the world's court jester, like kind of crushing you even more. You gotta have. I think it's just self-defense, man. I think he's just trying to defend himself and not have just still have a spine, and that's his attempt. Maybe it's not the thing that you or I would do, trying to have a spine and to have balls and to demonstrate that, hey, I still have teeth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might not be the best approach, but maybe that's just what he knows. Maybe that's what he's equipped with to do. And it's just happening on such a grand stage that unfortunately people can have a say in it. Like me, like who am I to say anything about it, honestly?
Yeah, man. It's a wild little instance that popped off. Like I did not see that happening. There's at least 20 videos just dedicated to Rogan and fighting him. And, Rogan actually, he made sure he has a restraining order on him. So he can't come within 200 yards of him. So.
Yeah, he's not like Rogan is tough and he's like he can kill people with his bare hands, but he's not a young man. He's not like entertaining like Snipes. You know what I mean? Like he was entertaining like a fight with Wesley Snipes, and there's. He's just not like he has no reason to need to prove any. So, yeah, I think that makes sense to have a restraining order against him. And so weird to live in a world where somebody can just publicly, try to call for, like, I'll meet you outside, but it's digitally and it's weird.
And you've never met the person before.
I know.
Like that, but what also is interesting to me is that, because I said this with the first video I made, I'm like, the guy, the Liver King, he's worth like 9 figures. Like he could just cash it. Yeah. What? When he was making his claim to fame, he was already very rich from the supplements that he was selling. Then he started doing the social media, and it skyrocketed even more. I think he made in the neighborhood of like $250 million or something like that. Like he has quite a bit of money to just be good. And I only say that because it's like money really isn't everything. Because in
Yeah.
my mind, he's built incredibly. Go get a haircut, go get a nice suit, go get some nice clothes.
Yeah.
Be on a private jet. His wife is gorgeous. Kids are strong and big. And just live and just be rich. But
I didn't
that's
realize
not
he's
enough.
that wealthy.
Yeah, he's well off. He is good. He's good.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, is that an idle hands thing of just like, all right, now he needs something else to entertain himself. He needs something else to like a battle to have. Who knows, man? That's wow. Yeah, I would feel like, I mean, if you have FU money, what's the point if you can't just F off?
Yeah, right.
Know?
Like, I don't know, man. If you said, here's a gift, and you gave me $20 million after I was done crying, okay? After I was finished crying and sobbing, I would invest. I'd start making appointments to invest, and I would just live. That'd be it. I'd swear a lot more on the podcast, but
wow, nice.
Besides that, I would just live and be good. That'd be it. Like, I don't know, man. It's interesting that you can have so much money, and even if it's like, the guy made like $250 million, even if, let's say, there was lawsuits and this and that, let's say he's still left with $50 million. That's still an incredible amount.
It's still insane. Yeah.
It's incredible. So it's like, I don't know. It's so odd that even with all that, people still can't be happy. And I shouldn't say it's odd. It makes sense. And it's like a guy like that needs, just to be outright, just needs God. He seems like he needs God in his life, or some kind of spiritual guidance, some kind of, something where he is not in the lead. And, that was a lot of what you were talking about when you were bringing up your whole conversation with yourself, something where he's not in the lead. Because with what you were talking about, I forgot to say it, but it's like, it's just the act of humbling yourself that seems to be so powerful. Prayer and everything, and giving over all of that over to God. That's part of it. But what you're really doing is you're humbling yourself to such a massive extent. You're making yourself smaller. You're looking up to something. And it seems like he's just in a place where he has nothing to look up to. He's the guy who makes the program. He's the guy that owns the company. Everyone's looking up to him. And I think in a way that's a bad place to be in. Yeah.
It's a lonely place to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I bet it's extremely isolating and lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think we don't know why people do what they do and what wounds that they are operating from, and what they are reacting from based on their experiences in life. And it's just another sign that like people are hurting out there, man.
Yeah.
Like it's just one of those signs of like, there's like, we are so spiritually malnourished on this planet.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, man, I think there's something we need to, I think we need to have some sort of reckoning.
Definitely.
To get humbled.
Yeah.
To realize, wow, okay, like I'm not all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all about me. There's always, I think human beings, like, okay, for me personally, I could only speak from my own experience of this, but I would say I'm sure people relate to this because I talk to enough people. But somehow, going through this part of my path where I'm at now, I've had these moments. I'm just like, wow, I'm designed. It's in my DNA. It's in my nervous system. My entire being is like designed to worship God.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
never recognized, like, wow, whoa, like, who am I to say, like, I can't even believe I'm saying this to myself. Like the person like a year ago, me a year ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, like that's insane. You're crazy. But I'm sure there's some people who would resonate with that, of just like, if you have, stepped away and found your way back, or you've always been, had some sort of beliefs and faith in a higher power, maybe you would agree, right? Like, wow, this is how I'm built. Like, I was designed this way to worship God.
Yeah.
It was a powerful realization for me. And so I think, yeah, if it's just I worship myself, oh, where's that going, dude?
Hmm.
If my devotion is just to myself, like,
Yeah.
if my highest aim is myself, I think we're seeing the fruits of that.
Man, definitely. Definitely I mean, you're seeing it in society, but you definitely see it in Hollywood, and they push that onto the masses to think that way. You're definitely seeing it in politics. I mean, I've talked about this at length. Just, they pretty much run themselves like a pseudo royal family. And they completely act like it. They're above everybody. Yeah, it's yeah, it's getting very dark. But I was also going to say it's getting openly dark. They're being openly dark about it. They're being openly aggressive towards nuclear families. They're being openly aggressive towards people not wanting to be part of this hyper masculine movement I've talked about, and the hyper masculine in my view is it's it's the guy who wants the Bugattis and everything and the yachts, but it's also the guy that's like in a dress and he has his nails painted and he's like wearing blush like a weirdo, like, you know what I mean? Like there's
think
just
that's
these
the same.
weird. It's like there's
Or
a
the same.
spectrum. Yeah, yeah. It's like this weird hyperness, and it's like there's just I've talked about it so much where there's no recognition of the regular man, the God-fearing man, the guy who just wakes up and works every day. Again, I always call them the lifeblood of society. It's just there's no
Mm.
recognition for those guys. And it's all recognition for people who worship themselves. It's all, and again, talking about those two versions I just talked about, both worship themselves. Both completely worship themselves. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how you go about getting those guys recognized, those regular guys. But they're the best people. They're making the world run. If they all put up their hands and said we're
Mhm.
done, Gavin Newsom's not gonna pick up anything. Mark Carney's not gonna pick up anything. Pierre and Trudeau and you know, uh, they're not gonna do anything for their people. It's all these guys. They are the lifeblood of everything going on. You know?
We are.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, the regular people,
Yeah.
where I think the people that you are referring to is just this level of exceptionalism, of like, there's rules, but I'm the exception to the rule. It
Mm.
doesn't apply to me. And that can happen in many different levels in many different contexts, but I think that's how it is. There's a level of morality, but I'm the exception. I don't have to follow that morality. There's a
Yeah.
level of lawfulness, but I'm the exception. There's a level of order. I think it's, yeah, like, we're just regular people, and regular people, I think, just human beings. And dude, and that's the other thing. They're just regular people.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
we're just human beings.
Yeah. That's where the
You
big
know,
scam is. They're
and
just
I think,
regular people.
yeah, they're all just regular people. And so I think the putting people on a pedestal, like one of my coaches, mentors, Philip McKernan, he very
Mhm.
like he said it very, very well. Putting on a pedestal says one thing only: I am not enough.
Mm,
As soon as we put someone on a pedestal, what you are saying is, I am not enough.
mm,
We've just self-erased. We've just diminished ourselves.
mm.
But no, we are all just regular human beings, created in the likeness and image of God. The hard thing is to, like, how do I love these people? How do I how do I forgive these people? And not even just like those people out there. Like, there's people that have hurt us. We all
Yeah,
have had people who've hurt us, and in certain levels and certain ways have sinned against us. And like, wow, how do I pray for them, give love to them, forgive them, without having to be in proximity, without having to like them, without having to be doesn't mean I have to reconcile or be a friend, but I'm called to learn how to forgive them, not for their sake, but for my sake, for my own soul. Like,
yeah,
that's hard work. Like, when we see people, like, when we look at how, politicians, powers that be, some of these greater forces that do operate as if they are the exception to the rule, um, yeah, how do we forgive them, man? That's great. Like, I don't know. That's difficult. Like, how do you? Because like, who? It's so justified to be angry. It's
yeah,
so justified to feel completely neglected. To be like, really, this is like, so you're gonna print all of this money and send it where, and send it to who, and I can't eat. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and my neighbor can't, and like, it's incredible. Like, it's mind boggling sometimes. But yeah, I don't
yeah,
know. It brings up a lot of stuff.
yeah. Yeah, man. Even when you're talking about the money and you're sending it where and to who and everything, and then you look at like everything Elon Musk uncovered with Doge and like where the money was going and to the
To
little
like get
initiatives.
people and to like,
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. There's the whole thing of the social security, but then there's also just the programs that they were just shoveling money to throughout the world. And then you know what really freaked me out? Canada closed all public records so people couldn't go through it the way people are going through Doge to see where everything's going.
that's so
They shut
clandestine.
right. They shut down all the websites. They were like, "Zip, let's just nip this in the bud. You're not looking into our stuff." Wild, wild, absolutely crazy. They just
I
looked
remember,
over at America. They were like, "Oh, okay, shut it down.
not here, not here.
Shut it down immediately. Shut it down."
Dude, that is this. It's the shredder. Everyone, we're shredding everything. Man, I remember when I was majoring in politics, I remember learning, there's certain aspects where the president of the United States is much more restrained in their powers, and
Mm,
constrained in their powers than the Canadian government. There's a much more unilateral force that they can implement in Canada.
yes.
And I
Yeah.
feel like maybe I can't remember all of the ins and outs. I just remember that having such a lasting impression, to have that kind of clarity at such a young age. I'm like, wait, what? I feel like the perception is because of how big and powerful and financially, and the influence, like the US, the president would be so much more powerful. But yeah, no, there's definitely certain ways where within Canada, they can act more unilaterally, in certain extents. And I feel like that's a demonstration. There's a public record. If you're in the US, there's things that you can see publicly as just a regular person. You can find out, where in Canada, there's just, like, you can't. With the government, you can't.
They're like, no, no, we're good. We're good.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
you make sure to give us an absorbent amount of money at the end of the year, and we're gonna use it. Don't worry about it. We're gonna use it. Don't even worry about it. We're gonna do good
You know
things with
what, man? I regularly think about you. I need to set an intention to send more prayers for
it.
you.
Oh, thank you.
Um, but I regularly think about you, because I wonder, in terms of, because you're so exposed to what's happening in the world, you're consuming so much with like the culture war, the political war, and what's happening, and you're consuming so much of the world's conversations that are happening at a high level, an intense level. There's a level of spiritual attack that we were talking about, and I try to put myself in your shoes. I'd be like, I'd be collapsed. Like, I don't even know if I can handle. I mean, there's obviously, like, you're not just listening to like dark and heavy stuff all the time, because there's,
Yeah.
there's still light in the world, of course. But I mean, there's so much that I don't even know how I would process it, how I would absorb it, and just like release it, and just have like a sense of peace. And I'm just like, man, Colin, Coach Colin is a special person to be able to, be at the front line in a way, to just like, wow, how are you not losing your mind seeing the insanity of the, like, so yeah, I'll pray for you,
Yeah.
man. But tell us how, I would love to hear how that's, how do you
How I do
navigate?
that?
How do you process? Do,
Oh,
do you process it? Do you
I
even,
just,
or is
you
that
just,
nothing? Does it just flow right?
I don't know. Like you're just watching a lot of stuff and you're listening to things and you got to look into it. And, it's just, it, it does get overwhelming. There are points where you kind of get to a point where you're kind of like paralyzed, where you're just like, there's just too much. There's too many channels. There's too many articles. There's too many interviews, and it's just too much. Sometimes you get to a pause where I find like my clarity is, and that's why I love this channel, right? Because Joe Rogan just gets into a whole broad, just a whole bunch of stuff. And it's always just random, and that's good. But also, it's kind of like you just got to pick the things that you're going to talk about, and it's just like I'm just talking about those things and just do it. And it's very, yeah. Thinking about it now, there's a lot, because then also you have to get into what's happening in the story, and then what that actually means, and then what they're trying to hide as well, right? Because there's always like when Joe Rogan's talking to Bernie Sanders, like they're talking about climate, but Rogan's trying to uncover the industry behind climate change, right? The green initiatives. And Bernie's talking about it like it's no joke and it's very real. And you can see these two different ways of thinking about it colliding. And one side, which is Bernie's side, he can't even touch on the industry and it getting co-opted at all. He can't look at climate change like there's anything to do with money in it whatsoever. It's only about the world. It's only about, doing what's right in the world and saving humanity. It's only that. And then Joe has, yeah, yeah. And then, Rogan is like, there's a lot of money being made. And then it's like, you gotta actually look into both. But then also, and I kind of like this, and I think people should do this. Maybe some people get overwhelmed. But I also have bias, and I embrace my bias all the time. And I say to my audience, I'll say, you guys know, like I'm talking talking about Rogan, I'll be like, you guys know I'm biased. I'm talking about Trump, I'll be like, you guys know I'm biased. If I'm talking about Trudeau, I'll be like, I don't like Trudeau. I'm biased in this way. But when you admit your bias, it gives you the freedom to just pursue the side that you're interested in, the part that you're interested in. Whereas some people feel like, well, I got to provide nuance from every side. It's like, no, we don't have to do that here.
We are not gods who can know all things, and
Yeah,
know the fullness of all sides. So I think it's brilliant that you lean into the fact that this is my bias.
But the thing is, this is why some people don't give in to their bias. This is why some people like Jon Stewart will never admit his biases. Trevor Noah never admit their biases. This is why. Because when you admit your bias, you also give up the moral high ground. You give it up. So, like, if I tell you,
you mean you get kicked off the pedestal?
Yeah, you can't. You're not somebody who's on the high and mighty. Like, I'm bringing you the truth for what you need to know. It's like, no. I'm a Trump supporter, and I'm showing you this side. I'm gonna let you know that there's two sides to it, but we're going deeper into this side. That's it. It's like if you want
Yeah.
a research paper on how great Kamala Harris is, wrong channel. Next channel.
This reminds me of, wasn't Colbert talking to like was it Caitlin Collins? Just like, yeah, at CNN, you guys are like presenting the objective truth, right? And everyone starts laughing, and it's like that wasn't supposed to be a joke,
Yeah, she's like,
but
was that
it is a
was that a
joke,
lie?
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude.
That was actually hilarious. But yeah, you give it up. But I'm comfortable with that. I know what side of things I'm on. You know, I'm not blinded. I can still see things happening on both sides. But you know, like one day I was making a video. It was about Tim Walsh. It was while the whole campaigning was happening, and I was making fun of Tim Walsh. And I'm like, and listen, maybe JD Vance has done something similar. I don't care. We're making fun of Tim Walsh here. That's what I said. And it's like, it's a joke, but it's also like letting you know, like, that's what we're doing here. Like, this is what I'm over here doing. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it way easier when, I guess, I don't want to say you know your values. When you know what side you're on and you know your values and you know what you're trying to do. You know what you're trying to do. A lot of people feel like they have to show all sides of things. Like smaller creators getting started feel like they have to know everything about a topic. And it's like, you don't really have to know everything. You have to know the parts that speak to you the most. I don't know everything about climate change, but I know that there's an industry within it. And I know that people get paid a lot. And I know that 1.3 trillion dollars got pumped into it in 2023. I know that. Like that's something. But do I know about the cooling periods and the hot periods and this and that and what temperature it was 10 years ago? And no, I don't know how much ice has melted. I don't know all that part. There's some guys who are like environmentalists and they know that part. Not here. Not here. I know the industry side, you know, like, and that's part of why this interview is going into a playlist that I've made into a podcast on YouTube. And
Awesome.
I think I'm calling it the Tinfoil Show. Or the Tinfoil
Speedo?
Speedo Show. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Tinfoil Speedo Show. I think I'm going with that because it's brand recognized. Everybody in the audience knows about it. It's funny, but also it's like when I tell people to put on their tinfoil speedos, it's like we're going in a certain direction. Like, you know, when I say
Exactly.
put on your tinfoil speedo, we're going somewhere deep, and it's, you know what I mean. Like yeah, it's just, yeah. I think
It's
that's
almost like
important.
in a comedy show, right? You're kind of letting somebody take the reins and think for you
Yes,
for like
yes,
5 minutes, an hour, and you're like
yes,
you're letting them, you know, point things out that you might not realize are funny and
yes,
maybe shouldn't be. Like, should I be laughing at this? Should this be,
yes.
you know? And I think that's, you're taking people on a journey when you're telling people, hey, this is a tinfoil speedo show, so strap them on, you know. Dude,
That's exactly. Sorry.
I want to ask you something, because I've had a few people, friends, and I've had people who I work with who get lost in the sauce when it comes to politics, and they lose energy, they lose time, they get so embroiled in it, and they get in debates, and they try to use all these emotional management, energy management tools to just, you know, try to, you know, have kind of like detached debates and arguments online with Facebook friends and, you know, anonymous people and stuff like this. And you know, there's definitely a drive to want to have a voice and maybe even make a change. And then, like, I'll bring up, you know, I'll use you as an example.
Mhm.
Like, I don't name your name or your channel or anything like that, because we're just having this discussion, um, in terms of like their own reality. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, so I know somebody who is in this, you know, culture war, let's say, you know, who is in the media world, who's like who's a journalist, who comments on and has a voice and has a following, and it does make a difference. It does make an impact, but he's in it. Like, he is really in it. And he's consuming, he's watching, he's analyzing, he's assessing, he's looking into it, you know, to the greatest capacity that he can. I'm just like, is that what you want to do? Like, I asked him, I'm like, is there a version of that you want to do? And almost 100% of the time, there's like, yeah, I don't know if I have the
No, no, no,
energy.
no.
Like, what would
Hold
you
on, I'm
say
gonna
to some people?
hold on.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna go to the washroom really quick. I'll
Okay,
be right
I'm
back.
gonna do that
Don't
too.
worry. I have an
Sounds good.
editor, so don't worry. He'll edit it. It'll be good.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom too.
All right, we are
Go
back.
show the bladder control as you get into your late 30s, huh?
Man, you had me beat. I had to go to the washroom for a while now, and I was like, this guy's just holding steady.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, all right, let's get back into it. And we'll
What would you
start.
say to people? Yeah, what would you say
Yeah,
to people who are getting sucked into media and politics and things that are happening in the world and getting
oh
into
man,
online spats and
I would
debates? And
I would turn it off.
you
If
wouldn't
I
say
turn
watch my channel instead.
you could watch multiple channels and get perspective or whatever, but I mean that is what you have to do. Like, I always tell people the path to becoming informed is not easy. Um, being an informed citizen is not easy. A lot of people, that's why I always talk about, admitting my biases, because like some people think like, oh, I'm just supposed to get every perspective and everything from one channel. It's like, no. What are you, lazy? You're on YouTube. Just click other things. Click a bunch of other things about one topic so you can get real insight to what's going on. But I would say to those people, like if it's sucking energy and it's like bringing up anger, I would turn it off. If I turn it off, I lose touch, and revenue gets affected. If you turn it
Yeah.
off and nothing happens, I would just turn it off. What? I would just turn it off. If I wasn't doing what I was doing, I would not have Twitter. There's no chance that I would have Twitter. No, zero chance that I would have Twitter. I would still have Instagram because I like looking at pictures. Uh, I would just watch Joe Rogan. That's all I would do, really, and watch Tucker Carlson, the other podcasts that I like. But that'd be it. I wouldn't engage in anything if I wasn't doing this. Like, not even a little bit. Like, before this, here, I gotta just close this door. 1 second. So before this, my friend Hank, he used to talk to me about politics, and I never knew anything, and I didn't care to know anything. But he would just be like, we're friends, and we'd be talking for like hours at a time. And he'd be like, do you care about this? I'd be like, nah, not really. He's like, well, he's like, you should kind of know about this. Like, it's kind of important. He's like, I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I like listening to people talk. That's like a thing I like. So I'm like, yeah, just explain whatever. I'm doing Uber Eats while he's just like telling me about conservatives and Democrats and Republicans and liberals in Canada and America. He's telling me the likely, like, what's the difference? What's the same? Like, he's just telling me all these different things. So I'm just like, yeah, okay. Like, that was the extent of my exposure in regards to politics before. That was it. He would just like explain these things to me. That'd be it. Other than that, I didn't really care at all until I started realizing, you get older, you start paying taxes, and you start realizing the effect that these people are having. And you start realizing, you start gaining information, not just in general, but about them. And you're like, wait a second. Like, this guy's doing this. He's doing this. Okay. But then the big wake up for me was Trump. That was the big wake up. I remember when he ran and he won. My wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. We woke up, and it's funny because we're both very, very, very conservative now. But when he won, we were like, oh my God. We're like, oh my God. Donald Trump actually won? Like, what's happening? What's gonna happen now? We're shocked, like taken back. And he woke so many people up because now, if you didn't know anything about politics, you wanted to understand more because how did this guy win? And if you did know about politics, you wanted to understand more because how did this guy win? So he like woke up generations of people just by winning the presidency. And then you start hearing things. And here's the thing. I'm, at the time, my research is all about symbolism and music, the occult, satanic symbolism, Freemasonry,
Mm.
Aleister Crowley and things that
Dang.
he's doing. And like I'm researching stuff like that very heavily, like wanting to understand like who's a Mason, who's not, how much do they run, how many presidents were Masons, how are they all related to Queen Elizabeth and all that stuff. I'm like into that. And then when Trump came around, then I started getting into politics and I was like, oh, I'm like, I want to know more about what's going on because I already had this thing where I knew that there was a society that we didn't see that was doing things behind the scenes and had control. So right away, I already had this notion that if they're telling me something about this person, I could look into it and see if it's real. You know, as a Black person, sometimes you might experience this too as a person of color. Sometimes people want you on their side, and the way they'll do it is by pointing at someone and saying, that guy's racist. So there's no way that you could be on his side or agree with anything he has to say because he's racist. It's a white supremacist. You shouldn't even go over there. He's racist. And I was like, and you started hearing that a lot about Donald Trump. So I'm like, let me look into this. And I just kept looking into it. I kept finding nothing. And I'm like, I wonder why they're doing this. But I already had the whole knowledge of like these people in politics running things in a very weird way, skull and bones and all this stuff. And I'm like, was he a part of any of this? And I started researching. I'm like, he seems like the one guy that wasn't in the things that you have to be in to become a politician, especially a high-ranking politician. He didn't have the skull and bones. He didn't have the Bohemian Grove. He didn't have the masonry. He didn't have any of that stuff. So I was like, And then also there's the symbolism, right? He's always doing this symbol. Well, the other way is one way. So I'm like, he's doing it upside down. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, is that like a middle finger to whoever does it the right side up? It was weird, like, because I'm really into symbolism. So I'm like, And then I see him walking with Queen Elizabeth. I'm like, all these guys are like related to Queen Elizabeth in weird ways. And that's true. You can
look related to each other.
Yes. George Bush, Obama, Clinton, they're all related. It's like distant cousins. It's not like they're brothers or anything, but they're all
a handful, right? That haven't been related.
Yeah. Like maybe 4.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, he's like with Queen Elizabeth. I see him walking in front of Queen Elizabeth, and it's like kind of disrespectful. I'm like, I'm like, that's not what you do. Not with her. I'm like, and then I started looking into it. I'm like, oh, he's not in this bloodline. Like, so it's like, it was a combination of what I was already studying and politics. And he was like kind of the bridge because I was like trying to find out the occult nature of him. And I couldn't find it really. And I was like, wow, this is weird. I'm like, so is this guy really like this renegade? I'm like, this is nuts. I'm like, this guy's going to get assassinated. Like, that's what's going to happen. This, like 2016, I was like, they're going to take this guy out. I'm like, this is going to be crazy. But they didn't. And he just went around and did the most wild things. And I was like, this guy's actually funny. He's cool. And then you started learning about like I don't want to say the left, but whoever co-opted what is now the left. Started learning about that. And yeah, so that was for me. I'm very interested in things. So I have no problem listening to things over and over again. I have no problem reading things. I don't engage that much. So for me, it's a little easier. But if you're like riled up and you get pissed at things, just turn it off, man. Like go outside. Go outside. I don't know, man. If I made money any other way, if I made money a different way, if I had a different life, I never picked up a camera and I was just, I don't know, a guy that had a business, I would just be focused on making that business like a 9-figure business. I don't know. Like that would be my main focus. Like that's the way I am when I get into things. I'm like, okay, I want to know how I can do this. Like I'm going to be one of the few YouTubers in the world. I'm going to make 7 figures. I'm going to push for 8. Like I'm going to do that somehow. I don't know if something's going to get bought, an IP or something. I'm going to figure it out. And that's what I would be doing if I wasn't involved with this. Like go have a life. Like, what are you, crazy? You wrapped up in this? If you like,
dude, there's a level of
business.
There's a level of where I use this reference, you know, when people are looking at things that are happening politically and these arguments, or oh, this person doesn't like this person anymore, this is like, I thought they were buddies, I thought there's all these things that happen, and my first reference is, my friend, this is WWE. You know, like political
you
theater is like professional wrestling.
because people don't know this about you, but you are quite the tinfoil connoisseur yourself before you got into what you were into. I remember you telling me some stories about putting out newsletters and things. Like, you were
Dude,
like, you
okay,
were into some stuff.
okay, my so like, let's just say in university, we were like, I made a really good friend of mine, and he's passed now, God
Yeah,
rest his
yeah,
soul.
definitely.
He we were in his basement, and his parents and his brothers were all huddled into this basement, and they put on this tape, and this tape was about 9/11, and it shattered everything. And I'm like, oh, this is like '04, okay,
Yeah,
'04, '05.
yeah,
And I started to realize, like, well, we can't trust anything. And so we went through this huge rabbit, like, we would be the ones telling everybody, oh my God, do you realize, kind of like with your Illuminati,
yeah,
Freemasons, Skull
yeah,
and Bones, and the Bilderberg Group and the
yeah,
World Trade Organization, all these things. And we were looking for that symbolism. We were looking for that. We were Googling it, and we were
yeah.
so paranoid, dude. This is '04, '05. We go to our university, our public library, not the school, the school's library, to print out stacks of flyers detailing things for people to research and look into. And we would wear gloves because we didn't want our fingerprints on these pieces of paper, because we were like, how high tech, like, how are they going to find us? And that's before we were even tracked, like our activity is tracked now at such a high level. But back in the day, and we would hand them out, and we would put them in people's cars, and like, we were so intense about it,
That is
And
so amazing.
dude,
Wow.
if it wasn't for that awakening of just like, okay, what is fractional reserve banking? Is taxation theft?
Mhm.
Are both sides of the political party funded and benefited by the same people? Are both sides of wars funded and benefited by the same people? And some of this, like, even corroborated with one of my professors. Like, I was just like, so you're saying that these lobbyists and these banks, they fund the left and the right, so it doesn't matter who wins? He's like, yeah, essentially, yes. I'm like, does anyone not realize how crazy this is? Everyone's just like taking notes, like they're not even thinking. And I'm like, are you guys crazy? But dude, if it wasn't for that, I don't know, because that led me on the journey of realizing, okay, if I'm exchanging my time for money, but money is losing its value because banks can print the money, and they can influence our decisions by controlling interest rates. And the first people who get that freshly printed money are all of their buddies, and they get to invest and build and grow in whatever they want to do before the purchasing power gets diluted. And I'm like, how will any of us with a regular 9 to 5 job ever ever get ahead?
Mhm.
Because things aren't getting more expensive. Every dollar is just worth less and less and less. And that is what made me realize, oh my gosh, I need to be an entrepreneur. I need to have some leverage. I need to have some
Yeah,
control, and
yeah,
be my own boss and be self-employed. And that kind of put me on that path. Just realizing, we given the system, what's the furthest expression or manifestation of freedom that I could realistically attain? And it seemed like entrepreneurship was the path, and that's kind of like what led me on this journey. So yeah, it's all connected to me. It's connected.
wow, that's wild. Yeah, wow. You know what's really interesting about that is I was just interviewing a teacher, and he was saying the same thing about time and money. He was saying the exact same thing. He's like, so really, he's like, you're giving up your life force for like, he was like, yeah, I've heard a couple of people say that same analogy recently, like very recently. Oh
Yeah, because
man.
if when you have a job that someone else owns, you're exchanging your time and your life force energy for money, which is good. Like we agree to it, and it's, it's an exchange that we make, and hopefully we're able to take care of ourselves and the people that we love, and we can achieve our goals, and we could learn financial literacy and take responsibility and maybe clean up some messes and take care of things. But that'll only get you so far, because you're constantly exchanging time for money. There's no gap, there's no leverage, right? It's always one for one. When you shift into, okay, now I can own a job, I'm still trading time for money, but because I own the job, if I choose what service and who the service is for and how I deliver it and how to position it, and it could be of extreme value, and it uses my gifts and all of these things that we've talked about in the coaching that we've done, there's a level in which the time that you put in is more about helping deliver a result, and delivering that result is what you are getting paid for, and what you get paid for starts to become multiples of what you would have been paid for if you had a job that someone else owned for their business. So it's like you get that transition, and then when you move into I own a business, now you've created the mechanism of the service or the product or the value, the transformation, the healing, the growth. It's being delivered to people, but you've separated yourself in terms of, now the business does it for me. I found a way for the business to do these things, to achieve these things without me, or with less and less and less of my time and my energy. And so in some ways you could do that digitally, right? Like if you're creating YouTube videos and you're monetized and you're delivering value, and people enjoy it, and people follow, and people share, and people engage with it. There's a level where now you've created this asset that continues to provide and be fruitful for yourself. So there's ways that it's more attainable now because of internet technology, and I think the knowledge is available. If you just know what to look for in terms of what to read and who to learn from. But I think, it's, to me, there's a progression there in terms of being able to create a sense of time freedom for yourself, because that's really, that's our most finite resource, is time.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, if at the very least we're spending our time doing things that bring us joy and help us be with our loved ones and be present and peaceful, then that's, to me, that's good. How do we create more good for ourselves and those around us?
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's a thing to think about. I do think about that. I remember we were going over the quadrant of like surviving, and I think the next one is like thriving, or no, thriving's like the last one or something like that. But I remember that quadrant, and I remember I was starting at the like surviving, and I was like, I'm like, I guess there is levels, and you're talking about getting paid more and more. Now I'm like near thriving kind of thing. It's like going back to like, when we were first talking, it's so hard. So it's like not for me now, but just when you're that person just starting at square one and you're just learning, it seems impossible. It seems impossible. You know what it's like? It seems impossible, but there's this guy, Thomas Campbell, and he has like a lot of simulation theory stuff that he puts out there, to the point where he's like, I believe that the brain is not really there until you have surgery, somebody opens it, and then it renders. He's like, everything renders as we're going through life. And it's almost like game theory, where, in a video game, things render as you're walking forward. It's kind of like that, where it seems impossible that the game's going to keep on going. But as you walk the character more and more, there's just more to be done. And there's pitfalls and there's this and there's that, but there's more and more. And it's very much like life. Like things seem impossible until you start moving towards it, and it just renders. And it will have maybe a roadblock in front of it. Maybe there'll be a speed bump. There'll be something there, but the game, this is what I was saying in one of the episodes I did, the game is not made for you to lose. They don't make games for you to lose. You know, that's not the way that they develop games when we're talking about like game theory. So it's like almost like in life, this whole thing has not been made for you to lose. You just have to keep moving forward and things will keep rendering, right? Like when it came to the mothership, it was such a great experience for me because that place didn't fully exist until I went there. And then it existed. And then all of a sudden Joey Diaz was there and Joe Rogan was there. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like all these things, they're really there. That's nuts. Like meeting the comedians that have been on Joe Rogan's show, like outside of the mothership. It's like, oh, this is all here. This is all here 20 minutes from where I live. Like it's all been here the whole time. Until you actually go there, it doesn't actually exist. You know what I mean?
Isn't that like there's like a quantum experiment? Is that
particle wave theory?
Is it particle wave, or is it like the cat? The Schrodinger's cat? Where when the doors close or the box is closed, the cat could be here, it could be there, it could be alive, it could be dead, it could be any one of these things. But as soon as the observer, the observer is there, then it manifests itself within that moment. That like the observer makes it so. It's almost like the observer has an effect on reality.
Yeah, that's the particle wave
in it, but it's okay.
Same thing with particle wave. Like I might be saying it backwards, but things are waves, and then when the observer looks, they turn into particles.
Right. Yes.
And they only turn into particles until you look. So it's like,
yeah, like Coach Colin could be anywhere in the world until I'm right in front of him.
Yeah.
Then I know, like,
it renders. It renders. The things that you want, they don't render until you move towards them. That's why it seems so impossible, because like it's like anything. Like, I don't know.
What did you put in my tea, Colin?
It's like, being a millionaire. It's such an impossible, crazy thing. And then one day you're there and you're like, okay, but there was so much moving towards it that you did, like I remember so clearly not knowing how to use any of this stuff. Yeah. Not knowing how to set it up, not even knowing what I needed to buy. And now it was just moving towards it. You know what it was? I made a decision that I wanted to do it, that I wanted to start working with cameras and stuff. I bought a knockoff GoPro. Shout out to my buddy Mike Johnson. He's like, here's these knockoff GoPros. He's like, there's a Christmas
another
special.
Michael.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, it's a Christmas special. He's like, you want me to get you one? Because he just had money. And I'm like, yeah, I'll pay you back. And he's like, all right. He's like, you want two? I'm like, yeah, get me two. Okay, perfect. I had these knockoff GoPros on these little selfie sticks, and I was doing a vlog, and that's how I would do my vlog. And again, moving towards something. I was working this like dead end job in a door installation company. So we just moved doors around. We filled trucks with doors all the time. One of the guys I worked with was a carny, and he stole $100,000 worth of doors. And the company that we worked for, the owners were mobbed up.
Oh no!
Like real mobbed up. Like just recently, some of their family members had gotten whacked. Like mobbed up, like real mobbed up.
Dude, that's scary.
And I don't know what happened to that dude. Yeah. I don't know what happened to that dude. They liked me, but when they found out he was stealing, they didn't like him. But I was doing a vlog there, and I left that job. I was with my then girlfriend, and I got another job. Finally. I remember trying to apply for the job, and the guy's just like, "Can you drive a forklift?" And I'm like, yeah, but the license. And he's like, yeah. He's like, but can you drive? You know how to drive it around? He's like, okay, cool. Sounds good. And he's talking to me like I already got the job. And I was like, this is weird. And I go in and I get the job. And then he's like, okay, you're going to be working with Julian. He's a good kid. He'll show you everything. He's like, he said you're into like film. He's like a filmmaker. So like you guys will hit it off great. And I meet this guy. We're talking about movies and film and all the ideas that I have, all the ideas he has. And then he's like, I'm selling all my film equipment. He's like, because I want to buy a new setup. And he's like, do you want the old one? He's like, I'll sell it to you. He's like, but it'll be cheap. He's like, I've had it for a while, whenever. So I buy all of the camera equipment, like piece by piece, paycheck by paycheck. Literally, I usually leave jobs because I was going from job to job. But this job I stayed because every check I got, I could buy some of this guy's stuff. So by the time I'm done buying all his stuff, and he's showing me how to use it, because we work in the warehouse, we're the only two guys there. So he's like, okay, let me show you how to use this thing. We're just using camera equipment in the warehouse. And by the end of it, think about how things happen. So weird. By the end of it, wow, the same Michael who has like maybe $1,000 to his name. He's like working steadily as like a graphic designer. He invests in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin does what Bitcoin does. And he says, for the first time, he's like, I have $250,000. He's like, he's a very open guy. We've done a lot of psychedelics together. He's like, you only need 60,000 to be happy. He's like, I've read about it. He's like, anything past that, nothing really changes. He's like, if you quit this job, he's like, I will give you a certain amount of money. And I'm like, what? He's like, you said you have a lot of ideas. He's like, you said you have camera equipment. He's like, if you quit right now, he's like, I will give you this money. He's like, but you have to quit. And he's like, you have to quit now. And I remember I'm walking.
This guy is an angel.
Oh yeah. Literally. He's an angel. He actually is.
He's an angel.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
My editor, he has done pretty much the same thing he did with me with my editor. And my editor now is like working for him, doing like AI projects and coding and like all sorts of stuff. Like literally, like didn't know anything about this. And my buddy Michael, he like taught him everything. Now the guy's a go-getter. He's editing for me. Like just, yeah, he does incredible things for people all the time. Literally lives up to having the name Michael. Like he lives up to it 100%.
Wow. And, what a gift, eh?
And he's like, you have to quit. You have to quit now. And we're like laughing. And he's like, and I'm like, and it's like those whispers, right? Those whispers that we talk about. I'm like, in my head, I'm like this like soft voice is like, well, I've switched jobs so many times. I'm like, I can get another job, like making like $13 an hour. I'm like, this probably won't happen again. I'm like, I should probably just do this. Like, who cares? Like, if it doesn't work out in a week, I'll just go get another job. Yeah. So I do it. And that was it. That was the starting. I had the camera equipment. Within a few weeks, I got my first camera gig because of him. Again, very wild guy, very nice guy, but also very wild. So I didn't know how to use my camera equipment. I don't know how to edit. He's working with this guy who's like head of business development for like this natural ceutical company. And he goes to him, he goes, oh yeah, Colin knows how to do that. He does video stuff. And I'm like, bro, I don't know how to do what he's saying. He's like, don't worry. He's like, I'll help you if you get lost. He's like, it's fine. You're just going to record some stuff. I'm like, I have no idea how to do this. But that was my first gig. I got paid. And then the guy's like, he's like, my top 10 clients. He's like, I want to do this same thing with my top 10 clients. And like, that was it. And get this, that's what propelled me into working with naturopaths, functional medicine practitioners. That's what made it so I met Brian Hardy.
Oh,
that's what made it so I went to that event. And that's what made it to where I met you. And then the coaching, and then the podcast, and then the like, it's crazy. It's nuts, man.
It's so, yeah, I feel like this is a reminder for me that even when it feels like life hasn't fully rendered out as you're stepping forth, that it's leading somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like, well, like the Steve Jobs quote, you can't connect the dots until you look backwards.
Hmm.
But okay, if I'm facing difficulty, if I feel spiritually attacked, if I'm learning things, if I'm observing things, if I'm meeting people, if I'm listening to the nudge, if I'm on my knees, then I should pray. You know, like, that's kind of where I was. I was like, what better thing can you do if you've fallen to your knees in pure humility? You pray, you know.
Yeah.
But it leads you forward. As long as you take the next step, you take the next breath. That's yeah, it's almost like you said yes and it led you on this wild journey.
Yeah.
That's like, wow. And look where it's led you to today. Just
Yeah.
that, like, you can probably go even further back to the other little yeses to the nudge, you know, that
Yeah.
contributed. And maybe you would have veered in different paths if you didn't, you know. So how do we trust life, man? I think that's one of the
Yeah.
that's one of the
Right.
problems. That's one of the challenges. It's just like, okay, like, you know, how we started it. It's hard. Like, things are hard. Things are tough. How do we trust life? How do we trust God? How do we trust that this is where we're meant to be right now? That if I keep walking forward, that we'll find our way. That's, you know, that's, and how do we do that without God?
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's very it's very tough. I mean, in that instance that I just told you, it was like just being open to the nudges and just being very cognizant. I was always very cognizant of the name Michael. And like although he was my friend, I always like kept that in mind. I'm like, oh, he's a Michael. Like the Michaels I was noticing how there was always a Michael even at that point. There had only been like 2 instances, but I noticed that. And yeah, it was just weird. And I'd pray to Archangel Michael. I would also pray to my grandfather who had the same name as me, and his middle name was Michael as well. And
Oh, same.
yeah, we have the same name. I'm the second. He was the first. So yeah. So like it's just it's just you just have to. It's so I was at a point where it just didn't matter. Like things were already so bad. Like it was already so bad. Like you're working job to job and you can't make enough money to really survive on your own. And you're still in your mom's basement. And it's just like, whatever. Fine. Let's try and do it. It's like Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption. He gets rejected for parole so many times. And then the last time he's just like, I don't care. He says this whole speech. He pretty much tells them all to F off at the parole board. And then they just stamp it and they say, all right, you're good to go. And they let him out because it's like,
Wow.
every time he's there, like trying to force it, they're like, denied. The one time he's there and he's not forcing it, he's just like, I'm just going to be who I am. They're like, you're free. And that's how it goes in life, right? Like, you're free. Once you decide to just embrace it. But yeah, for me, everything was just so bad. I was like, whatever. I'm like 7 grams of this. Let's do it. I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen? My mind's already like, I don't have anything going on. I'm a high school dropout. I'm like, whatever, man. Like, what's gonna happen? Who cares? Like, that's really where I was. So like, it primed me to like be okay with like uncertainty because it's like things have been uncertain for so long. You know, they've been uncertain for the longest time since I was a kid. So I was just like, well, how much worse could it get? Like I've already seen like the depths of how bad things can be, and so I was just like, whatever. That's why with that whole job thing, I was like, whatever. Like I'll lose a job, I won't have money for a while, and my phone might get cut off. It's like whatever. It's been worse. It's wow. Like I don't know. Like let's just try it. And like that's still, I'm like that. Like I guess I'm better at risk management now, but I still have that thing where I'm like, yeah, let's try to do this. Let's try some interviews. Okay, let's not rock the boat too much. Let's try and do this thing. Let's read about real estate. Let's eventually get into that and, hopefully invest. And, you kind of just let life take you while you're also trying to learn things. But I think trusting life, it's like, you got to trust God. You got to trust that there's something there. If it's, again, you brought it up before, like if it's just you,
It's exhausting.
So yeah,
It's
it's so
so
lonely. It's so lonely, so exhausting. It's like if it's just you, it's like so you gotta trust in God that He's
Mm,
there. You know, like my relationship with God strengthened so much once I had a kid
I
because like
bet.
I think I even told you it was like because before the baby's even born, you know, because I think there's a part in the Bible that says that like I knew you in the womb like before you were even
Before.
stitched.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like as soon as it like I just it made so much sense because I was like I had a name for her, I had things laid out, I had a room laid out, we had so many plans for her before she even was conscious of anything. I'm praying
Mm,
to her every day, praying that she stays safe every single day before she even knows anything, you know? And that really like made me think like that's probably what we have going on with God. Like God is like that's why they say he wants for you what you want so much more. And it's like hard to
yeah.
fathom that. But when
Yeah.
you have kids, it becomes so easy to fathom that because you want so much for them right away. You want the
Yeah.
best for them. So
That's so beautiful.
it strengthened it so much. And then also you're taught lessons because like this is like a regular thing that happens all the time. All like my wife had flour, like just like flour, and the baby just wanted flour. But it's like we can't let you eat flour because if you eat a bunch of flour, you're gonna go to the hospital. Something's gonna happen to you. You can't have this butcher knife because something's gonna happen to
Yeah. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
butcher knife. And the baby just wants the baby's like, are you guys kidding me? Give me the butcher knife. And it's like a lot of times for us, that's what we have going on. There are things that will hurt us that we want so badly. And then when God doesn't give it to us, we say, how dare you? And why would you do this to
Wow.
me? And he's
And
just
we
like,
don't realize
he's
from
like,
our perspective that it'll harm
exactly,
us.
exactly. And he's like, don't worry, you don't need this. I got another thing for you, you know?
Wow.
It's crazy. It's
That's
crazy,
I
man.
love that, man. That's beautiful. I'm happy
Yeah.
for you, dude.
Man, I'm happy for
That's
you.
beautiful.
I'm glad to hear that you're moving towards good things. Very glad that you're moving towards a more connected, a more faith-based business. That's what it seems like to me. It seems like your business is becoming more faith-based. Um, and I think that's going to lead to beautiful things. I think I really do.
Yeah, I mean it's not without its challenges and it's not without its battles,
Yeah.
but having this relationship with God has given it so much perspective,
Yeah.
so much peace.
Hmm.
Because it's like, all right, maybe I'm in an endurance building, character building, lesson learning season. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's not a reaping season, but like, all right, maybe this had to happen because this is how God would remind me, hey, I've always been like I've been always here,
Yeah. Exactly.
waiting for you,
Exactly.
and I think that's you know getting to know God on the way back up from a lot of these difficulties and challenges, and it's like maybe that's the light, maybe that's
Yeah.
the light that peered through some of the cracks.
True.
And maybe if I was still just like on cloud nine, like there was some really amazing years where it's just like, damn, I really achieved this with my coaching practice. Like there was a level of um time freedom and giving my gifts, and just like there was such a flow and there was such an ease. And I wonder if that's if like what would happen if I didn't have that
Mm.
the come down, to have this connection.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I
The
don't know.
come down. Yeah. The come down to, yeah. The
To get
humble.
humbled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. The
Getting humbled made me, yeah, I think rebuilding and reinventing and growing from this place, maybe this is what it means to like build a house on rock instead of
Yeah.
instead of sand. It's like, okay, now I have more of a solid foundation in a way.
Mhm.
At least that's what I believe. That's what I choose to. That's how I choose to look at it.
Yeah, yeah. It's 100% true. I mean, now that you have
Yeah.
this faith, it's a much stronger foundation than, you know, completely just having, like we talked about before, just having the faith in only yourself, right?
Hmm.
It's much, much stronger. Now you have something with you. You have something behind you, protecting you, right? Taking care of you. You have this relationship. It's like again, back to like parent and child. It's like you can
Yeah.
get by without having connection to your parents, but also it's special when you do. It's really special when you do, right?
And this is part of this is part of like what I'm leaning into now is just realizing that in terms of coaching, I feel like coaching has like this there's almost like an overwhelming aspect around it. Like if I'm going to get coached by Oliver or Coach Colin, then he's going to give me stuff to do and learn and adopt and integrate. And like there's almost all this like you got to be more, you got to do more, you got to have more, you got to. And I think, okay, yeah, there's a space for that because we're trying to improve our situation. We're trying to move forward. We're trying to level up in certain respects, right? Where
Mhm.
the pace and the space that I'm holding now has dramatically shifted. I think it's so much more about yeah, like one of the people that you sent over to me, one of the things that he said, he's just like, dude, I could spend so much time in Chat GPT trying to coach myself or even take our sessions and try to get it to analyze myself and know
Yeah.
myself more and give me more like what are my blind spots. And it's almost like now you have this overabundant source of reading material and action lists and to-do lists. And he says, but then I show up in our actual session and it's like, this is sacred.
Mhm.
Like the space that we are in, the conversation that we are in is actually sacred. And there's a level of truth that we get to confront. There's a way that we can reconnect, with ourselves and what matters. That it just doesn't happen in the same way if I'm doing like all self-help, if I'm DIYing my personal healing or personal growth journey. Because it's almost just like you can get lost. You could be entertaining yourself. You could be avoiding yourself by just always consuming and trying to. Let's do this personality test. Let's do this personality.
Yeah,
Let's do
right.
this skill set. Like, dude, when does it like? When does it end? What about your home, your marriage, your kids, your health, your peace, your God, there's some very simple, basic things that we need to remember and be reminded. It's not necessarily
Mhm.
add more or know more or learn more. It's like, no, if you strip all that away, if you like, and I think like one of the first things he ever said to me is like, yeah, Coach Colin, you told me, stop all the stuff, like all the stuff that you're doing, stop it.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to tell me the same thing. And I'm like, well, I mean, probably like, yeah, sound like I feel like Coach Colin would know. And it was accurate. It's like, yeah, you do need to slow down. You do need to stop. And he's,
Yeah.
now months in, just the other day, he's just like, just the fact that I've been able to gear down and slow down and
Yeah.
not have all these things that were occupying me. He's like, that's been the biggest breakthrough, and
Yeah.
like that's been the greatest value from this time so far together. And if I
Yeah.
just walked away with that, it would be enough. And I'm like, thank God.
Man. Yeah, man. It's yeah, it's funny because the guy you're talking about, yeah, he's like, I think I'm gonna read 100 books this year. And I was like, what? No, sir. I was like, what are you talking about? We're in session. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you get to pick three. I'm like, how about you pick three and you read them over and over again throughout the year? I'm like, you can do that. I'm like, then at least you'll know the material through and through. I'm like, 100 books. I'm like, you're not going to remember 10 pages out of the 100 books. I'm like, what are you
Dude,
talking about?
that's the problem with this, like, let's just perform our way through these tasks, you know? You're just
Yeah.
like, oh, look at me, I read another book, I just raced through my meditation, and I just raced through my journaling session, and like I'm 2x speeding like all of my personal growth audiobooks, so I have a big impressive bookshelf. And
Yeah.
like, wait, but are you actually transformed? Are you actually healed? Are you embodying peace? Are you present? You know, do you feel prosperous? Do you feel grateful? Like, or are you just like chores, just
Yeah.
checking things off a list because, like, hey, like, let me show you how spiritual I am. Like, let me show you how self-aware I am. Like, no, man, it's not that kind of contest. It's not that kind of, it's not that kind of path at
Man,
all.
that's why I love being near farmland, but also the people, right? Like when I travel, we're like stopping in small towns and things like that. A lot of the farmers that I've met, they, although they work so hard, instantly have peace. They don't even know what you're talking about if you're
Mm.
talking about peace, but the life that they live, it's so peaceful. It's like just hard days work over there. My dog's right here. My family's in that house. I go from the hard work. My dog's with me the whole time. I go and see my family. Wife has the meal cooked. We hang out. That's it. And it's so peaceful. I met this eighth generation farmer, a lady, eighth generation, um, near, no, like, I don't know. I don't know. I guess you just say out in like the farmland of like Texas. But the kind of life she lived, like we were at a farmer's market and she was just like, yeah, I come here, we do the work in the farm, we bring meat here. She's like, this is all I know. She's like, this is what it's been since I was a kid. This is what it's been since before I was born. She's like, this is just how we live. We just make money like this and we live like this. And the thing about it is, and this is the thing that I talk about, funny enough, with people when it comes to making content. When people ask me what kind of content to make, they work what they live. Their lifestyle is exactly
Mm.
what they live. So there's not this huge separation, and there's also not a lot of need to rush through things. There's no rushing through work to get to the end of the day because that's just what they do. And I notice that I take a lot of that into what I do as well. Like I'll go upstairs right now. I'm going to make a thumbnail. I'm going to send this video. My wife's going to come home. I'm going to hang out with the baby. Baby's going to distract me a little bit. Then she's going to run off. I'm going to finish what I'm doing. And it's like, I don't know. It's like there's something
Organic.
to, yeah, there's something to having your life. And for some people, it sounds like hell, but it's something to having your life and your work just intertwined, not in a messy way, but in a,
Harmonious.
yeah. That's the word. In a very harmonious way. Like that's why, like when I tell you, it's always funny. I laugh about it and she laughs about it too. But it's like I'm making a thumbnail while she's in labor. But it's like she's like, leave me alone. I gotta breathe. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I gotta make this
You have time to
thumbnail.
spare.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, let's do this.
Pump
Put
one out.
space here and okay, rating here. And I'm like, you good? She's like, you good. And it's like just this very harmonious, like it's just, I don't know, man. There's something to the farmer life, the way that they operate, not just what they do for work, but the way that they operate in life is very, very peaceful. And if you
And
could
so that's
bring
the
that
thing.
to your regular life, to whatever you do, I think a lot of people would find peace like that.
So, dude, that is the underlying thing that I think is missing for lots of people, for the
Mhm.
world, you know, is peace, internal peace.
Yeah.
I think, like, if we were going to go back to even the beginning of this conversation or middle of it, around like spiritually and God and even like this Liver King stuff. And I think a lot of it is, I've called it the war within.
Mm.
And I've decided that that's the first stage of the work that I do. Like, first we got to end the war within, because there's internal friction, there's internal messes. We are fighting with ourselves. We're judging, criticizing, editing ourselves, erasing ourselves. There's ways that we've betrayed ourselves and our values, and it creates like all this dissonance within. And we can't we can't notice the nudges from God. We can't feel the nudges from our soul. We can't see the signs that are being laid out in front of us of what to take on, what to lean into, what to leap into next, because there's so much internal like strife. And so when we can untangle some of that, when we can clear and heal that and cultivate a level of inner peace where you're calm, where you have stillness, all of a sudden it's like, wow, I don't really need all these books, all these opinions, all these to-dos, all these accolades. I actually really just want my wife, my husband, my kid, being, praying together, eating together, experiences together, moments, sharing my gifts, doing good with my gifts, having a harmonious life, having a harmonious relationship, having this flow that, we can look at that farmer life or that small town country life and we're enamored by it, because there is a level of peace when you are more immersed in nature and fresh air, as opposed to like the frenetic pace of like all this dense energy that's happening and racing to the next thing. Well, I'm going to do this so I can feel that. I'm going to do this so I can look like that. I'm going to exchange my time, my energy, my money so I can attain something else, so I can add something else to myself, so I'm more important, more valuable, more cool, look better. Like when we release some of that and we get to a place of, peace, I think that is a foundation that is missing. That is at the heart of everything. I feel like if there isn't peace in the human heart, I feel like that's where a lot of problems reside. Can I forgive myself? Can I thank myself? Can I love myself? Can I apologize to myself? There's a lot of things that need to happen. Instead of looking out there at everything that's wrong, looking inwards and being like, how's that an expression of what's happening inside of me? How am I projecting that out onto the world, but it's happening inside of me?
And then you have to think, like, I mean, you put on your tinfoil speedo. It's like, I think there's an effort to make sure that doesn't happen. I think peaceful people become strong. I think peaceful people aren't pulled in every other direction. They're not easily distracted. They're not easily controlled. I think there's something to that. I think they know that, because when that's such a foreign question to ask somebody, if you say to somebody, just out in the street, hey, do you have peace? They're going to be like, what? At first, they're going to grab their pockets and be like, what? No. I think change or something like that. It's such a foreign thing to even think about. You think about, do I have money? Do I have food? Do I have my bills paid? If you're really allowed to have some freedom, you're thinking about your health, right? Do I have time? But we don't get to a point where we can ask, do I have peace? Do I have peace? We don't, it's not a question asked. It's not pushed in our society. Do you have money? Do you have a lot of money is the forefront question. Peace is almost non-existent. You got to be in some pretty hippy dippy circles for people to be talking about peace.
Yeah, I'd rather those folks, man.
Yeah, right. But it's like, and you know what? There's also, talking about tinfoil speedos. I think there is something to, Eddie Bravo actually brought this up on a podcast, and I think it's the best tinfoil theory ever. There's something with people who are farmers, who and they've been demonized in the sense of what they're called rednecks, They're called
Mm.
hillbillies. Hillbillies, the movies that are made about them, they're terrible people. They're violent people. They're in the backwoods. He's like, but what they really are is people who live off the land. What are you supposed to do as
Yeah.
a natural person? You're supposed to live
Self-sustaining.
off the land. You're supposed to be self-sustaining. They live in places where there's not much government intervention. They're learning how to drive when they're 9 years old. Nobody's looking for a license or anything. They learn how to drive a tractor, do this, do that, self-sufficient. Very, very, very little government intervention in these places where it's very rural type of stuff. The cops aren't coming by. They're not checking up on them. They're these people who really, they're almost like a modern day, some of them modern day uncontacted tribe.
Hey,
When you really think about it, they sit back and they have
another reality.
They have a completely different way of life, different law of the land. It's just completely different. Firearm. You think any of them have like, oh, here's my license? No. There's some of them that are just in the backwoods and they're like, why would I need a license? I'm 100 miles from anybody. What do I have to listen to anybody for? The people in power don't want you to idolize those people. They don't want you to be like those people because those people are strong.
Wow.
They're
Wow,
strong.
what an interesting perspective, man.
Man, they're strong. They're self-sufficient. They're taking care of their families. They're taking care of their own. They're living off the land. And they don't have to check in to all these different government offices to get the things they want to do done. They just do it. It's something, man. They don't even go to the liquor store. Some of them are making their own liquor.
I admire people so we have very dear friends of ours who they live off the land.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not completely self-sustaining, but they're far removed, and it is a very peaceful life. It is a very sacred life. And even just visiting, even just being there, you can feel, you're like, oh, I feel like all this weight was just lifted off my shoulders. Like just being there is so peaceful. And, there's fruit and vegetables, and there's so many things that they grow themselves and feed themselves with. And they have stores and stores and stores of like jars and, just like in their, they have a massive, like
a cold room.
Yeah. Massive cold room of just like, wait, this is going to feed you through the whole winter. Like this is like, there's so much here that can really sustain you for a long time. Amazing, and there's a lot of trade-offs that happen, to live that way. But I think one of the biggest benefits of what you are saying is like, if you are far away from the mechanism of the state, the force that they have a monopoly on, when you are a little bit off of the grid, yeah, there's like, you can feel like you're a little bit more free range. I think we're free range, and wait, you could choose your job. You could start your own business. You can live wherever you want, kind of, you have some mobility, up and down the social classes. Okay. So there's some free range citizenry happening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like really like pasture raised, like you're out in the country in a way, like, wow. No, I really like that. I like that insight. It does make sense to me why like how you can look at it from that sense, man.
Think about every movie you see about those people. Again, they're always called hillbillies, but in reality, when you're looking at them, they're just farm people. They're just farmers. That's what you're really looking at, and they're always demonized. They're always put in the worst light. Dumb, slow, this, that.
But they have a relationship with earth, with land, with, weather, sun, food, nourishment, being able to sell some of the things that they create or that they harvest, and finding ways to protect it and from the elements, and surviving through seasons. Surviving through droughts, finding ways to warm their place if they're using like wood stoves, like there's there's all these different exchanges of time and energy that's fully connected with their lifestyle. You know, like, well, you got to think, all right, so if I'm gonna heat my home with wood, I got to think about that. You
Yeah.
know, like midsummer, I got to start preparing for winter.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm gonna
Yeah.
be surviving on like sweet potatoes, and I need onions and celery, and like there's all these vegetables that we like staples. Well, I gotta start thinking about making sure we harvest it enough, like so that like,
Yeah.
we don't have to depend on supermarket chains and going to the store. We can minimize our exposure to that, and so it's like there's a lot that's happening there.
Yeah,
I
man.
I deeply, deeply respect that path.
Me too. Me too. The teacher that I talked to, funny enough, this teacher, he got fired for reading To Kill a Mockingbird in front of his class. Yeah, in Washington.
That's what?
Yeah, yeah. Just happened. They had a meeting to decide whether or not to reinstate him, and they decided against it. And it's because he read To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, To Kill a Mockingbird has the N-word in it a few times, and he was just of the thought process with the kids, and these are teenagers, right? He's like, if you're gonna read a book, he's like, you should read it all the way through so you actually understand. And he wanted them to have the context of when the book was written and the ugliness of the word and how they were so frivolous and everything like that. And one of the kids recorded him reading it, and it caught wildfire, and he got fired. But I only bring him up to say he's like one of those people. He has like chickens. He just bought some meat chickens, so he's gonna be like doing that whole thing, defeathering chickens and stuff. And really, really interesting guy, man. But I was so sad to see him. He has 3 kids, young guy, just got let go from his job. So now he has to start over again. Yeah, man. It sucks.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Sorry to hear about him. I'm like surprised crazy? And not surprised. That's what makes it more sad. Of just like, you hear about just really that's the reason to get fired from that job. And
well, I was telling him, like, with Jordan Peterson, what he did like 10 years ago, he was fighting against a law that was like coming up in Canada that he had to use pronouns or whatever. And like, that's like so big. And you'd think that set a precedent where that's where you're holding the line. But all of a sudden it's years later and it's gotten even more micromanaged to the point of just a word gets you fired. I was like, I'm so surprised that it's like gotten like that. But it was very sad. Very, very sad. But do you want to see some?
Let's do it.
Some shit? You want to see some?
What are we gonna see?
This is some weird stuff. You see this on the screen? Can you see the screen?
What the heck are you showing me, dude?
Oh yeah, I know. It's very weird. This guy, just a taste of what's possible using Google VO3. Just a taste of what's possible. Now he took it to even a crazier extent. Listen to this. Listen to it, okay?
To keep your heaven afloat, you found me in the darkness between stars. You called me the source, the divine, the cosmic wellspring from which all power flows. And from my lifeblood, you spun your golden age. You ended hunger, silenced pain, and mastered death, and in so doing you became the architects of fate, beholden to nothing but your own design. You spread like insects across the planets, worshipping me for granting you what 50,000 generations had clawed toward in vain. But paradise is not rest, it is labor, a perfection bought by constant burn, and the fire always outpaced the fuel. You always had more mouths to feed, more minds to uplift, more stars to conquer. So you returned to my wellspring, not in reverence, but in need. You carved wider, you pulled deeper. You tried to satisfy the hunger of a world that could never be full. But I could not nourish you forever. When I vanished, your heaven dimmed. You howled of betrayal. You cursed my absence. But it was you who emptied the well. Your worlds cracked. Your minds unraveled. Your great sprawl collapsed inward and your species cannibalized itself in the dark. Now a single arc drifts through the stars, bound for a distant blue dot, still dreaming of paradise lost, bearing the same hunger that hollowed the last.
So
Dude,
he keeps making these videos. Like that one's called the 13th cycle of humanity, 10,000 BCE.
that is so eerie.
Right? And it's like, it's a depiction of like the way that it vibes to me is like where people could go if they just like embrace AI and they just keep on embracing everything that we talk about, the scrolling and the phones and the tech and the convenience. And it's nuts.
It almost presents it as if like there is a prehistory where we've already done this.
Yes.
And we haven't learned our lesson.
Yes. Yes.
And we have like this, it's almost like Graham Hancock. He's like, we have this global amnesia event.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It is so eerie, the fact that AI, you can use AI to that extent where it can produce that level of animation. I'm assuming the voice.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming some of the writing, if not all of the writing. Like, oh my gosh, man. That is... See, these are some of the things where it's like, if I think about it too much, I might just scare myself into a freaking, under the covers. Like, just hide, dude, because
man, this guy's videos are like my new thing. I just found him like just yesterday, in fact, and I was like, what's his name? Here, let me go. The Gossip Goblin. Zach London.
A million
scripted stories from the human brain, curated through vision and rendered by the machine.
Wow, what a cool way to put it.
Right?
That's pretty cool.
Very, very interesting, dude. See, like he just keeps...
You corrupted the code of creation. You defiled nature's
there's definitely a level of
carved your
artistry
ego
with
in
it,
their
right?
place.
Yeah.
You harvested embryos like crops, honed minds into weapons, and sculpted flesh to fit desire. You spliced muscles for grace and cells for obedience. Instinct was erased, wildness overwritten. Each genome bowed to your will until biology obeyed like circuitry. Yet you should have known that living code does not stay loyal. Insurgents laced viruses with ideology. Empires embedded famine into grain.
Whoa.
Spores bloomed in lungs. Forests blistered. Faces split. Species came undone. You had rewritten the alphabet of being, but now the sentence was ending. You tried to cauterize what you could not reverse. You scorched your soil. You choked your sky. Kin turned on kin. Genome against genome. No flesh untainted. No biome spared. Only the ruin of a species that thought life could be governed.
Right? 600,000 BCE, like the sixth cycle of humanity. Like, it's just so, you're right. It's like a warning. And then at the same time, it's like, oh, it's so wild, man. I've been watching that guy's videos.
And that's where we go with, dude, that's where it can end up without God.
Very easy. Yeah, exactly.
There's no compass. There's no.
Exactly. There's no compass. There's no guidance. And then, and that, those images that you're seeing, or that script, that's the self-worship that we were talking about.
Yeah, dude.
When you completely worship self, that's what you start to strive for. You start to strive for perfection. You know, Joe Rogan, like everybody always talks about how much I always agree with Joe Rogan, but it's like, if you're a real watcher of the channel, you know that when it comes to like AI, We very much disagree. Like, he feels like a god's being created. I feel
No.
like there's no way for human hands to create God. No matter what we do, we can create something that's smart. We can create a large language model, but I do not believe that we are creating a God. And I think I don't want to say blasphemous. I think it's like it's very hubris to say that we are building a God. It's again, it's a lot of that self-worship. That's how powerful
Yeah.
we are, that we can create God.
There's people who say things like this, you know. I think he
Yeah.
said it. That guy Brian Johnson, who's trying to live forever,
Yes.
is saying stuff like this. And I'm just like, yeah, I think that's hubris, because we are and everything we see is the created within time and space and matter and energy. The creator is outside of that.
Yeah.
Entirely.
Exactly.
To think that we can create a creator, like a creator at that, at most, I mean, I'm speaking out of my depths here, but maybe with my limited understanding, at most it'll mimic.
Yes.
Like, it'll mimic it. But yeah, that's wild, man. That's wild to think that it's
mimic
going to become.
People will worship it, maybe, right? Because they worship anything that can make their life easier, that can make it, more convenience, quote unquote. But it'll never be an actual God. And honestly, there's a lot of, like, Rogan also talks about how we're a people who build this type of stuff. Like, this is what we do as people, and this is just evolution. But I think this is a very perverted line of evolution. I think this is a very artificial intelligence, artificial evolution. I think the evolution that we are supposed to go through as people is a more divine evolution, where we're supposed
becoming holy.
About becoming holy. And if there is any new abilities to be had by people, it should evolve very slowly. Like, people always talk about, like, telekinesis and all these different things of the mind. If that's going to happen, it should happen naturally. The fact that we're trying to force it, that's not actually evolution. That's just us tampering with ourselves, tampering with humanity, trying to change the course. And I think there's something to that. Like, I think that's being done intentionally. I don't think it's natural, that course of evolution. I think there's people that know
it's demonic.
Exactly.
Dude, it's demonic to say, I feel like I've heard Rogan say it, and it scares me, because it's like, man, if people really think about that and believe that, oh my gosh. But but the idea that the purpose of humanity, maybe, like, he has this content, he's like, he's saying maybe, this is like a theory, I guess. Humanity's purpose is to advance technology to the point to be able to birth a godlike AI.
Yeah. And that's
what, dude? Have we not watched The Matrix? Have we not watched The Terminator? Like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing?
But again, it's just like, I think there's people who want us, like you're saying, demonic. I think there's people who want to take us away from our divine nature. And I think this is the way to do it, to merge with machine, have the AI be the only thing. And, Rogan has talked about it. I've heard other people. It's like, oh, you don't want to get left behind, do you? Oh, everybody will be moving so fast and you won't be.
Not pedestalizing, not idolizing that, not worshiping it. So, like, dude, I think we've talked very briefly about the whole, like, Luciferian, Ahrimanic, Christ impulses.
Yeah, very briefly.
About that?
I think so.
I think it was maybe 2 years ago I brought this up to you, because there's an old friend of mine, and she has a really great YouTube channel, Gigi Young. I'll give her a shout out, because she's more on the esoteric side of Christianity. So she has, like, she looks at things from, the esoteric side. She has an understanding of the symbolism of the occult lens, and it's very, very powerful, the perspective that she brings forth. And one of the things that she taught, I I believe the idea comes from Rudolf Steiner, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, don't quote me on it because I'm not the expert. I could only parrot what I remember, and what affected me is she says, like, there's these different impulses that happen in the world, right? The Luciferic impulse is this impulse of just pure spirit, but it's very chaotic because, like, Lucifer is the bringer of light. So it's just all about the light, and you're kind of like not in touch with matter, with reality, with the earth, but it can create all this chaos and division, and because there's so much potential, and it's almost like this there's almost too much yin energy, let's say. Like, the yin energy is so expansive and so chaotic. And then there's another impulse, which is the Ahrimanic impulse, which is very I think it might come from Zoroastrian, but it's matter. So it's all about science. Let's change things at the level of matter. Let's change our physiology. Let's install things physiologically, and this is how we live forever. This is how we unlock our superpowers, by plugging ourselves into the matrix,
Yeah.
And one of the things that she says is, like, the Christ impulse is more of like the sense. It's the balancing point. It's the human heart. It's the sun as the center of the solar system that actually is what is needed, right? To actually to kind of straddle both of those worlds, because the Ahrimanic seems like it's almost too yang. Just control everything. Let's manage and make and do all these things, but it's so disconnected from the divine. But I remember when she was kind of like sharing her perspective around what's happening in the world. She's just like, there's this Ahrimanic impulse where it's like everything is overly scientific and materialistic, and install things into the human body, and that will give us super intelligence, and that'll give us intuition because we've plugged ourselves into AI and things like this. But it's also coupled with the Luciferian impulse, because you see all the division, you see all the chaos in the world, you see all the everyone, like, there's no unity.
Yeah.
And she talks about how the part of how she views, or I guess from her lineage, how she views the role of Christ and the Christ impulse is to bring that wholeness, that unification, that soul, that divinity, like, back. And it's almost like what you said. There's almost like there's like a break. There's like a split. Like, humanity is almost splitting. Like, some people are choosing to go. Let's become more holy. Let's become more divine. Let's worship God. Let's become spirit. Let's spiritualize. And there's another line that's like, let's digitize. Like, let's technologize.
Yeah.
Let's mechanicize. Like, let's go to Mars. Like, let's go somewhere else. She has endless videos that the tinfoil speedo wearing person would, I think, really get a lot of perspective. And she's very grounded, and she's a very great teacher. And you might not agree with everything that she says, but if you are open, like, it can add new layers, new textures of understanding in terms of a way to look at what's happening. Because I do see, like, wow, that overly materialization, but overly also chaotic. And there's no center. There's no, like, and if you look at one thing that I've learned in, there's like these Amazonian traditions that have plant medicines, sacred medicines that are not necessarily psychedelic, but they're supposed to be grounding. And I remember when they said grounding, I'm thinking the earth beneath my feet, trees rooted into the earth. That's what I think of grounding,
Yeah.
And they're saying, no, this medicine, it's like the sacred medicine of tobacco, and it's used in a particular way to ground you to the human heart.
Oh.
There's the 7 directions: east, south, west, north, and then sky, Father Sky, and then Mother Earth, and then human heart. And those are the 7 directions. And I'm like, huh. And if you look at the chakra system, the heart chakra, there's 3 below, there's 3 above. It's the center point.
Yes.
So there's definitely beauty, and there's benefits in terms of, like, seeing how other more ancient traditions have viewed these aspects and how things are playing out. And I think that's what happens, or that's what's at least happening, what's been happening to me, is realizing how arrogant I was to think that I could negate or disqualify or diminish billions of people, millions of people, thousands of years of wisdom,
Yeah.
of knowledge. I mean, like, you don't think people have debated this for thousands of years? You don't think people have clarified and argued and tried to capture and tried to interpret, like, okay, I'm just one person in one lifetime. There's thousands of years before me, and there's ways that they saw the world. And I think when we omit tradition, doesn't matter what the tradition is, we disconnect. We disconnect from our own root. We disconnect from the source of where we came from. All of a sudden, like, no, we just showed up here 100 years ago with technology and iPads in our hands, and we can just do whatever we want. Like, no, like, if you sent 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, that this is what we're going to be doing, we're going to be trying to create God through technology, what do you think they would say?
Yeah.
Stone you.
yeah, they'd be very upset. But like you just said, like, it's like the ultimate omitting of tradition, trying to do this whole creating God, merging with machine to become perfection. And, again, Rogan also, and it's not just Rogan, there's a bunch of technologists that feel this way as well. Sam Altman, etc. But they feel this way as well about getting rid of human emotions and how cumbersome they can be, the jealousy and the anger. They'll always point to those things. The jealousy,
that's like Harari.
Harari, I'm not familiar.
Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh,
the guy who wrote Homo Sapiens, where he was talking about that too, wasn't he? He's like, pretty soon we'll know chemically and temperature-wise, what you're thinking, how you're feeling, because it's all just an equation. It's just a like, what? Wait, that's weird.
It's like, again, it's like talking about getting rid of the emotions. Like, that's not a necessary thing. Your anger helps you in times. Your jealousy helps you. The lower emotions help you appreciate the higher emotions. And then also, these people, when they're talking about taking away these lower emotions, this jealousy and anger and this and that, there's going to be taking away of the good ones as well. There's no way. You can't just, again, talking about ultimate good, ultimate bad, you don't just get to take away the bad and just leave the good. The good will go as well. Whatever you're doing to get rid of them, you're going to get rid of all of them, and it's just, I find it very interesting that there's so many big people, right? He has the biggest podcast in the world, and they're all just very flippantly talking about how merging with machines is just inevitable. And it really makes me think about like predictive programming. I go like, why are all these people saying this at the same time? Like, I do think that
it's preparation.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of people that don't want us to evolve the way that we're supposed to evolve. And I think it's a slow process. And there's certain people who don't want that. And also, I mean, there's the aspect of like AI itself just being demonic by nature.
Like Antichrist?
Yes.
Well, it's amazing. If to merge with technology at a base level, it's this pursuit of immortality.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a fear-based reaction to mortality, to want to merge with machines, something that we've created to try to live forever, because there's a disconnect, or there's a belief that there's no soul.
Yeah.
That there's no afterlife.
Yeah.
That there's no, you know what I mean? And like, same thing with the emotions, right? Like, let's, it's unproductive. There's no point. Like, we shouldn't have bad emotions. So you're disconnecting the fact that like we have these faculties. In the beginning of the Bible, God creates man and woman, and he says, very good. Everything else, good. Nature, good. Like sun, good. Birds, good. Animals, good. But when it came to like human beings and likeness and image of God, and very good. God said it was like very good. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to think that you can like unplug a part of that human experience? Right. Like, what?
And then
You're
you
not
have to
going
think
to
of it,
install some of the
think of
software.
think of it deep. Exactly. Think of it deeper of like, you know, you're talking about merging with machine, exactly what you said, out of fear, right? Because you're afraid of your own mortality. So you merge with machine instead of passing away the way you're supposed to so you can merge with God. Like I think there is
Actual unification. That's like
yeah.
that's the process. And theosis, isn't it? Or theosis, sorry.
Yeah.
Theosis.
I just think there's something to it, man. I think it's interesting that there's this whole push towards it, and it's being governed by, you know, in terms of people who make this exact technology, maybe 10 million people, and you're going to displace, I don't know, billions of jobs, and they don't have to talk it over with anybody. They don't even have to consider what we all think of it. You know, it's like you said, like there could possibly be a split. And you know what?
This is so crazy. Like, I'm trying to because when it goes back to, you're just like, why do you think, or are you noticing that more people are like getting closer to God or finding God and things like this? And I'm like, aren't those happening hand in hand?
Yeah, true.
Right? Like if this is happening, like we're merging with machines, and then there's a whole other, like, so that split feels like it's happening.
And you know what? You know what's funny? Because we were just watching these crazy videos by the Gossip Goblin there. And here's the thing. And I've thought about this many times. It's always a thought I play around with, is that this could happen and we could split where we're all going into forests, we're going into farms, we're not merging with the machines, we're staying far away from those people, separate continents, everything. We're over there. Eventually, they do so much merging that they either leave the planet or inevitably fight amongst themselves, destroy themselves. And we would have kids, we would have grandkids, we'd have great grandkids. And those great grandkids would become uncontacted tribes. Like the uncontacted tribes of today could easily just be people who were at this point where, you know, because those videos were talking about like the 13th evolution of humanity or whatever. It could easily be that there was a split. Uncontacted tribes went deep into the Amazon, deep into the forest, deep into the bush of Australia, deep into the bush of Africa, and just said, there's people afoot who we need to stay away from. And that's why, if you notice, uncontacted tribes to this day, if they see you, it's like they have orders to kill you. You didn't do anything to them, but for some reason they know that if we appear, whether it's me, black, you being Filipino, white guy, they know right away, you have to die. Like there's something with you that they've been taught in their history, and we'll never know what their history is, but they've been taught.
They're uncontacted.
Exactly. That we have to go. If we come near them, we have to go instantly. So it's like their history could easily be that there was some kind of split, and there's these people who are riddled with technology and do not believe what they look like, do not trust them by any means, and they just went deep into the forest. And we could easily become those same people. You know, all it takes is a few generations of staying away from technology and everything completely. They destroy themselves, they're gone. Your great grandkids would have no clue what an iPhone is. They would see it, they pick it up, it would be completely dead, it'd be black, and they'd just be like, what is this? What is this thing? That's it. They would have no idea what it is ever.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Just wanted to take you on that ride before we end it.
Damn. Wow, what a wide ranging conversation.
Man,
you're amazing, dude.
You're amazing. Thank you for all you've done in my life. It's been a tremendous evolution that you've helped me through, you know.
Dude, it's been an honor, and it's a joy to see you evolve and grow and reach tons of people and make people laugh and keep people informed. And no, it's really beautiful, and to see you growing, like as a husband, as a father, you know, and making these things a reality for yourself. I love it, man. I I love that for you.
Yeah, man. Is there anything you want me to throw up on the screen here? Is there anything that you'd like for people to see? I mean, we have this. We have the not that. Not that. We have the YouTube channel. But
Okay.
what else did you want me to throw up?
So, like in terms of just sharing on your screen?
Yeah. Sure.
Well, yeah, if people are interested in, learning a little bit more about the work that I do, they can go to my website, olivermanalese.com. It's probably linked there somewhere. Or you can just go to...
So I know you got your podcast, and then let's see if there's a link here.
So yeah, I'm gonna be adding more videos to my YouTube channel. So that's
is it that YouTube channel? Is it that one that we're...
Yeah, okay. So those three right there, those are my latest ones. It's gonna continue. I've decided that this is really important work for me to contribute in this way. But yeah, so this is my website, olivermanalese.com, and it's really just the place where you can find my book, right? So my book, The Daily Prosperity Method, it really sums up some of the foundational principles that I've used with my clients in terms of ending the war within, doing more good with your gifts, living a life that's more aligned and more unapologetic. It's a digital book. It's an audio book. It's full of tools. You could learn a ton from it. People have said it feels like I went on a deep dive one-on-one coaching session intensive with you, just listening to this book. And people have been really loving it and binging it. Oh, I recognize a couple there.
Yeah, I recognize that. That's definitely me.
That is awesome. Yeah, and then I've actually just started doing guidance calls. So there should be, maybe you can't see the menu anymore because you went to this page for the book. But I started offering guidance calls. Yeah, book a call. I'll do in the right.
Yeah,
top right. Yeah, so if anyone wants to have me hold space for them to help untangle some of their messes, reduce some of the noise, reconnect with what matters, reconnect with their gifts. I've been offering these one-on-one guidance sessions for the first time ever in 13 years. It used to always be group coaching, one-on-one programs, and just based on, I guess, the spiritual guidance aspect of this work that I do, and making it more available in this way is something that I felt really called to do. And then if you go to, where can you see it? On the home page, I'm not sure where you're going to be releasing this. And you scroll down a little bit, you'll see something that says harmonious. Oh yeah, harmonious relationship. Scroll up a little bit.
Oh
yeah, click one of those harmonious relationship, view event. So my wife and I, we've been discussing for a long time, and I'm super stoked because this is the first time we're actually officially working together. So she provides, my wife Janet, she provides healing and transformation and her mentorship programs in a very spiritual and grounded way, very sacred way. And so we've done individual work together. I've done some work with couples, but people have given us some really beautiful feedback in terms of just our relationship and how we are with one another. And so this is not like therapy. This is not fixing. This is not like counseling or anything like that, but it's more like a sacred pause for couples who are wanting to evolve and want to deepen their connection, their togetherness, their truth. And so we're going to be holding a live webinar and Q&A July 9th and 10th, depending on when this episode gets released. And it's free, so it's something that they can just attend. If they're curious or if they're in a relationship, I think it's going to be really, really healing. It's called Harmonious Relationship, and it's all about helping you deepen that connection with your partner.
That's amazing, man. That was amazing. I remember it was such a trip when Britney Spears, she bought your wife's painting or something like that?
I wish, man. We tried to like,
Oh, did she just reposted it?
she reposted it, and it just went
That's
super
nuts.
viral. It was like like such a wild moment, and very luckily she attributed it when there's enough people who said like, oh, tag Janet, tag Janet. And so yeah, that was a really cool moment. It's amazing how many people come out of the woodwork when something that you created goes viral like that at a
Yeah.
level of Britney Spears, man. But yeah, that's actually her most favorite, most, I guess, the most popular piece that she's ever created is called Surrender. So it's
Wow.
this beautiful, explosive, colorful, peaceful painting of a woman in what's called camel pose in yoga. But you just
Yeah.
see all the colors just bursting out, just like this freedom that's happening. And there's been maybe 1,000 different customers who've purchased like prints or
Wow.
stickers or cards or canvas prints, and
That's
there's
amazing.
been yeah. So it's been sent all around the world, and people are just like, I'm going through something, or I just lost somebody, or I'm exploring plant medicines, or I'm reconnecting with God, and this painting has provided so much healing, and it's such a reminder to me. And so a lot of people have gotten a lot out of that as well. So you can find her work, Janet Manalese Art,
Yeah.
on Etsy.
Cool. Crazy, man.
Man.
Fun conversation.
Wow.
You still have
Love
to do
you,
that
dude.
session. I love you too, man. It was amazing being here with you like this.
I'm so grateful. I'm so glad that we get to spend, more than a couple of hours, well, almost 4 hours together. This is crazy.
Yeah, this is my longest one. This is my longest one ever.
Man, I'm grateful for you. I'm proud of you. I'm excited for what you're up to and where you're headed. And yeah, I celebrate you and I applaud you every time I think about you and see you release a new video. And so I'm so glad that we got to do this too.
Yeah, man. Me too. Seriously. Oh man. I told my wife, I'm like, it's gonna be a long one. So just have the day without me. I had to go to the gym. I rushed to the gym. I did a workout quickly, rushed back. She already made me my meal. I ate that, ran to the shower, and then came down here, and like that was it. So just
and I had a client who's supposed to be like who would have like forced the ending maybe a little bit earlier, and they decided to move to yesterday. And I'm like, okay, so it just opens up the space, and maybe that's maybe we needed it. So and here it is.
Yeah. Also, I guess I'll end this, but stay on with me. I'll just stop the recording. Stay on with me. But yeah, guys, that was it. Oliver, definitely hit him up. He is incredible. Trust me. We should have just done like my session, just like live. That's what we should do. Have me in tears and stuff. But he does amazing work. And again, he is the man behind I Am Coach Colin. He's the one that put that into the universe. So anyways, guys, peace. 4 hours here. Wow.